you is to have sex with me. Like, I really love it because sex is really awesome. You know, like that's okay. We know that, gang. Like we can admit that. Whatever we're doing right now, fucking it'd be more fun. We can acknowledge that. Just say it out loud. It's okay. You know, so what are we doing? We're going to trade that, right? So if we're going to be in a monogamous relationship, what we're saying is, listen, I really like fucking you. And I also would really enjoy fucking lots of other people. But I am willing to forego the opportunity to fuck lots of other people in exchange for the opportunity to fuck you regularly. So can we agree that there's going to be some minimum level of fucking that we're both going to maintain for the purposes? And if the person said, well, yes, but you know, also one of the reasons why I fuck you is that you show tremendous kindness and grace towards me and you're complimentary to me. So could we, in exchange for those regular fuckings that are sufficient for you to forego all of the other potential fucking, that you're also going to show me a certain level of affection and attention that's going to make me feel good about myself for a period of time. Absolutely, very fair. This is a very fair transaction, right? So I know, like, okay, everyone's listening to that and going like, well, this is why I would not fuck a lawyer. Like, I get it. But isn't there something honest about that?
4 hours late.
Yeah, well, he's
every
on,
single time.
You know, he's like on pimp time. You know, it's kind of like.
Yeah, it's a different world for them.
Yeah, that's funny, man. You know, I've represented a number of people in sort of the underworld.
I'll bet.
And it is a fascinating. Mob divorces are actually like the easiest divorces.
In what way?
So mob divorces, there's like this doctrine of mutually assured destruction, where like she knows where the bodies are buried. And she also knows she could pretty easily be one of those bodies. So, you know, usually like the mobster does not want to fuck with things too badly. And the mob soon-to-be ex-wife, you know, like doesn't want to fuck with the mobster too much. Like I had one, I'll tell you, this is a great, so I had it, you know, nobody ever, by the way, if anybody ever comes in and says, oh, I'm in the mafia, they're not in the mafia. It's like, you know.
They don't say it.
Yeah, there's a lyric from a rap, I forget whose it is, where he says, you ain't never caught a body. I know it because you talk about it. And I think the truth is like people who kill people don't talk about killing people.
Absolutely.
So
100%.
like the mob guys I've represented, they just say they have a variety of business interests. You know, like that's it. They just have a variety of business interests. What do you do? I'm an entrepreneur. I have a variety of business interests. Or I'm in importing, you know, or I'm in sewage or whatever it might be, recycling. And I had one where it was mob family. So I had the daughter is my client. And she comes in and mom is with her mom, and dad. And dad is clearly the guy who's mobbed up. And dad doesn't have a word to say. He just sits in the chair like this. He's just listening. It's just this Italian, heavy-set, older guy. And his daughter's telling the whole thing. And I'm going through like the list of assets. And I see that they own a restaurant. She owns a restaurant. And so I say, you know, just a quick question. I was like, I noticed that the restaurant is in your name, the daughter's name. And he goes, oh yeah, I don't have anything to do with the restaurant though. It's just in my name. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, you know, I get paid to be paranoid. Why is it in your name? And she says, well, it couldn't be in my father's name or my brother's name because we couldn't get a liquor license because they have felonies. And I was like, okay, but you know, it could create a problem because it's in your name. It was acquired during the marriage. And, you know, I would have some concern that he might try to argue that is, you know. And the father, for the first time in this like hour meeting, goes, yeah, he's not going to do that. So I went, okay, well, that's, you know, it's good to hear, but I just want to make sure that, you know, like, are we certain? Because, you know, this is something we might want to get ahead of and figure out. And he goes, yeah, no, he's not going to make a claim for the restaurant. And I said, well, you know, I'm sorry, like I get paid to be paranoid, but, you know, how do we know for sure that he's not going to make a claim to the restaurant? And the guy just stone-faced just goes, because if he tries to do anything with that restaurant, they're going to find him at the bottom of the Hudson River with a $5 bill in his mouth. And I went, okay, so he's not going to make a claim for the restaurant, and let's move on. And it was emblematic of what mob divorces are like, because it really is like, A, you can't quite figure out what this person does for a living, but they have an incredible lifestyle. Like I had a client, a mobbed up client, whose koi pond cost $100,000 a month to maintain. Like think about that. You're spending over $1 million a year to have oversized goldfish. Like that's incredible. Like and you know, what did he actually make or what did he actually do? It was was very amorphous. It was never, you never get a straight answer about that. But again, very clean divorce, very uncombative, because unlike the
because
normal...
the person on the other side doesn't want to mess with the family.
Well, it's like I said, the doctrine of mutually assured destruction. Like, he doesn't want to mess with her too much. She's the mother of his kids. There's a certain sense of, okay, you don't do that. She's a civilian to some degree. And also, like, she could jam him up, She knows a little bit about where things are and what's going on. And then meanwhile, she doesn't want to really jam him up because she knows that could be a very dangerous thing to do. So it's a very interesting dynamic. And in New York, I mean, we bump into those kinds of characters pretty often. It's very funny because in my profession, to have like my 9 o'clock be a C-suite executive from a software company, my 10 o'clock is like a Goldman Sachs broker, and my 11:30 is like a mobbed up dude from Staten Island who has like giant marble lions outside of his house and like knocked up his third stripper wife. So it's a very it's a long day, and it's a really, I almost get whiplash from dealing with like and by the way, they're all dealing with the same shit.
It sounds like my life.
Yeah, that's exactly. Well, we really both do get paid to talk to people who are in desperate situations, but who fundamentally have some of the exact same problems. It's just like the symptoms of the exact same problem.
In a world where algorithms and financial incentives dictate the information we see, it's easy for important stories to slip through the cracks. This is powerful because it can heavily influence and divide public opinion. Much of what I do on Software Underbelly is about digging deeper and trying to see beyond our own biases. And this is why Ground News is a perfect fit for my channel. On any given news story, their app and website combine every article published on it worldwide. We can also see context on each news source, like where it may fall on the political spectrum and how credible it is based on use of subjective language. This is important to think about if you're interested in forming an educated opinion on topics that are in the news, especially on key issues as we head into a polarized election season. I particularly like their blind spot feed, dedicated to showing news stories that are underrepresented in mainstream media. So I encourage you to check them out at ground.news/SWU. Subscribe through my link to save 40% off their Vantage plan. By subscribing or even gifting it to someone you know, you're helping hold the media accountable, and you're helping support this channel. Thank you for watching.
I think that, because I've talked with psychologists, I've talked with all kinds of people, and I was telling you this off camera, I think you're a national treasure because I've called you that before.
That might be a first.
We talk off camera sometimes. And I think because you're in the trenches, you're up to your elbows in all the crap that we're all going through with relationships and love and marriage and all this.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with my nose in it all the time.
You have a better feeling for what's really going on and what works and what doesn't and why it falls apart and why it survives.
Yeah, and I think part of my skill is pattern recognition, and I think I see, because again, I represent quant people from hedge funds, I represent executives, I represent doctors, and I represent like the opposite of that.
You're more the high end.
But I see that we're all fundamentally struggling with the same things, and the way that I see it, like the inside line that I have to it, is a very, very honest view of it. Like I think people still lie to their therapists. I think because they're lying to themselves. But most of the time people don't lie to their lawyer, because my only job is to protect them. Everything we discuss is attorney-client privilege. And they know, lying to your doctor, lying to your lawyer, we're like the two people you shouldn't lie to. So yeah, I think I do get a very candid view of it. And I think most divorce lawyers, I think most of my colleagues think I'm insane for having these kinds of public conversations. I mean, I've had some of my most respected colleagues say to me, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why would you come out and talk about how the sausage is made? Why would you talk about what we do or the insight that you get for what's the benefit of it? It's certainly not from a marketing place. I have more clients than I could ever possibly fill in a day. I have to turn people down. So it really is, for me, like this doesn't feel at all like work. Like the work I do all day long, where I'm putting myself in the head of someone or putting myself in the head of my adversary and trying to tactically make decisions on how to handle litigation, like that is exhausting by the end of the day. But this, I could talk to you for 3-4 hours, no problem. I sat down with Lex for 6 hours. We edited it down to 4 hours. And I think we took 2 15-minute bathroom breaks. And I didn't afterwards feel like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I felt kind of invigorated because this shit's so interesting to me.
It's interesting to everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's like the old saying, like I'm not like this because I'm in Van Halen. I'm in Van Halen because I'm like this. Like I don't think that I am like this because I'm a divorce lawyer. I think I became a divorce lawyer because I'm like this. I find people fucking fascinating. It's the same reason why I liked your channel from before I was involved, in it in any way. Like I was a fan for a really long time and a subscriber for a long time. Actually, I'm still a subscriber. You're still hitting me for whatever it is, $10. It's worth it. But I still love watching the unfiltered stuff because the same reason I enjoy my work. It's just such an honest thing. Like we're so full of shit all the time. People are just walking around full of shit all the time. It's the same reason why I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because you can't be full of shit in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, if somebody pretends they're good at it, they're gonna get found out real fast. Like you can't fake your way through it. You can't buy your way into it. You can't get a fake version of it like you could a fake Rolex or a fake Birkin bag. Like you're either good at it or you're not, and that's it. Like there's no hiding, there's no faking it. And in our increasingly performative Instagram society, there's something so, like I think the feedback I got most from our first sit down was just people being like, yeah, this guy's real. Like you might not like what I have to say. I don't really like what I have to say sometimes. I mean, I wish some of it wasn't true. I wish that we were better at this. I wish that, my profession didn't require what it does, that people didn't ever beat the shit out of each other like this or weaponize their intimacy with each other. But, I find it fascinating still. I still, by Sunday afternoon, can't wait to get to the office on Monday.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's how I am.
I don't think most people are like that. I think most people spend 5 days a week looking forward to 2.
It's important to love your work. I tell my kids this. It's like just make sure you work for yourself. Make sure you do something that you love to do, because otherwise you're swimming against the tide, against the undertow.
And part of that, I mean, look, I've given that same advice to my kids, but part of that I think you have to temper, because when I say to people like, oh, do what you love. Like the world couldn't sustain that many baseball players and ballerinas. So I think when you give that advice to a kid, what you want to say to them is, look, like work on a lot of different things, try a lot of different things, see what you're good at, because sometimes enjoyment comes from competency. Like if you're very good at something, you're gonna enjoy it more. Like, and I enjoy what I do in part because I'm very good at it, and it feels good to be good at something, but sometimes you don't develop that skill until you've sucked at it for a little while. Like I look back on my early career as a lawyer and I'm fucking mortified at some of the mistakes I made, some of the just rookie shit that I did. But the only way you learn is by just stepping on the rake, and having it just whack you. And as a lawyer, like that's a little intimidating because you're fucking with people's lives, but it's the only way to learn, and that's why ideally, you do like I did in my early career. I represented assigned counsel people, so I was their free lawyer. So it's like, they're certainly getting their money's worth. You're doing the best you can for them. But it's a very, New York has a very tricky system when it comes to assigned counsel, because you're entitled to assigned counsel no matter how preposterous your claims are sometimes. So like, I've been assigned to cases where this person's just floridly psychotic, like straight up should be in this chair being interviewed by you. And they are, they have been given an assigned attorney whose job is to go in and advocate for the preposterous psychotic position that they've taken. Like, so you kind of look at it and go, okay, so I'm gonna advocate for their delusion now, But advocating for people's delusion is actually something I do pretty frequently, most often for millionaires now. So I guess I probably can't be that critical of it, but.
I mean, to be successful in love, I think we either need to be really courageous or very naive and foolish, at least at the start.
Yeah, or a combination of the two.
Yeah, and then to make love last, you need to be very sensible and have realistic expectations.
Yeah, I think for love to last, you have to think about the value of what it is you're doing. Like I think there's of all the people I know that have successful relationships, long-term relationships, and it's a limited number, I know a lot more people that have had a lot of unsuccessful ones. And that's not just a function of my professional life. I mean, I'm mindful of the fact that like I don't meet people who have great marriages or even solidly pretty good marriages. Like I meet people with, terrible situations. But even in my personal life, the people I meet that have successful long-term marriages, they're just able to see the value in the thing they have there, and they're willing to forego other shiny objects in exchange for that. Or they're people that are very religious, like they have to paraphrase Nietzsche, they have a why so they can endure the how. So I think if you genuinely are like, okay, I'm going to go to hell if I don't stay in this marriage, like that might be eternal damnation might be a powerful motivator not to fuck around too much. But the truth is, I think the people that look at their marriage and go, yeah, like this adds long-term value to my life. It's like the people that go to the gym in the morning. It's like the people that eat healthy. It's like, yeah, that might taste good right now, but like long-term, I'm gonna regret that I had that, and I want long-term health more than I want the bright, shiny, tasty thing. It's like Goggins says, or Jocko says, that trading what you want now for what you want most. And I think marriage is kind of based on that. But see, that's the problem is I think that's not how we have it set up. We have it set up that it's all this intoxication and excitement in the beginning. And then I think people start to align their expectations with that. Like it's going to be this fairy tale. It's going to be this wonderful time. We just love each other and we just feel so much. And we pass each other and just touch each other. It's like the electric shock of it, and we've all been there. Like we all know that can't possibly last. Like there's no way you're going to be able to have a functional society if everybody is just intoxicated by their partner, and that the sound of their partner's voice just runs that chill down their spine that we've all felt. Like that has to pass at some point. It's supposed to pass at some point. But I think a lot of people, when it passes, they go, oh, well, shit, that mustn't have been my soulmate. Because like that never would have passed if that was my soulmate. But it's like, no, of course that's gonna pass. Like, and that's okay. Like you get a new car, it's got the new car smell, it's got that excitement. And in a few months, it's kind of just your car, but it's still a great fucking car. Like it still has all those features and it's still, like you're just let go of this level of excitement that you had, the newness of it, And I think people just haven't, because we put so much value. That's the part that, I think I said in my conversation with Ryan, like I find so frustrating is that, when I watch a group of women talk about men, when they talk about the man they're dating or one of the friends in the group just started dating someone, everything the guy does, it's like, oh yeah, and then he texts me, oh my God, he did, like, oh, that's so, da-da-da. And meanwhile, it's like the guys who they're just shitting on now, the guys who they're like, oh, him, like, that was this guy 6 months ago. And this guy now, who they're all enamored with everything he does, in 8 months, he's just gonna be the fucking guy, the boyfriend or the husband or whatever. So it really is like the new car analogy, people just sort of lose touch with it. And when that happens and that resentment builds up, obviously, like people like me, doing what I do for a living, people come in and they say like, well, aren't I entitled to this and aren't I entitled to that? And, and there's an anger that they have and it feels like it's at their partner. But really, it's a reality. Like they're mad at reality. They're mad at the fact that their partner is human and that their partner isn't going to stay perfect forever and that they're not going to continue to feel, because really the truth, I mean, at least in my experience of romantic love, is it's not even how much what you feel for the person, it's what that person makes you feel about yourself. Like you look in the mirror when someone's like, in love with you and passionate about you and like, is so into you, well, you look at yourself differently. Like you look in the mirror and you're like, yeah, I am, look at this fucking guy. And you feel good, and I think that's why affairs like are so appealing to people because they're with their partner and they're not impressive to their partner anymore because no man's a hero to his butler,
I think it's our job as a romantic partner to build our partner's self-worth.
100%. And I don't think it's that fucking hard. See, that's the part that really blows my mind, is that like preventative maintenance is so easy.
If you're not building your partner's self-worth every single day, you're dropping the ball.
And not only do we not build our partner's self-worth, we go the other way, which is it's become totally acceptable to take the piss out of your partner.
I would love it if you would repeat what you said in our last talk with Orion about gatekeeping, the negative.
Oh, about negative gatekeeping. Oh, yeah. Oh, about the way people take each other down. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, negative. Look, the zeitgeist right now in the law is, especially when it comes to like custody and parenting stuff, is the alienation and negative gatekeeping is really the order of the day right now because it's all over the place, And it's funny because people just insidiously like imagine that there's a person sitting there with their kid going, by the way, your dad's an asshole, And the truth is, like, that's not what alienation looks like. Alienation looks like it's insidious. Like negative gatekeeping is when you're not overtly saying things like, oh, your dad's an asshole. You do things like, here, Here's the difference. Ready? Hey, did you have a good time with Dad this weekend? Oh, that's so great. What'd you guys do? Oh, you went to the park? That's nice. Did you guys have dinner? Oh, good. What'd you have? Pizza? Oh, yeah, you like pizza. All right, well, go upstairs, brush your teeth. We're going to watch a little TV before bedtime. Versus, hi, you're home. Oh, I missed you so much. Are you okay? Yeah, did you have a good time with Dad? Everything was okay? It went okay? Okay, I missed you so much. What'd you guys do? You went to the park. Today you went to the park, so cold out. Why did Dad take you to, well, did you have your coat? You didn't even have your coat on? Oh my goodness. I don't know why Dad would do that. Well, did you have dinner? What did you have? Pizza? Just pizza for dinner? That's it? No vegetables? Nothing like that? We know how important it is to eat your vegetables, right? I always say that to you. That's why I always make you, make you stuff that you're gonna it's good for you. It's not just tastes good, right? You know what I'm gonna do? Why don't you go upstairs and I'm gonna make you a proper something to eat, because you can't just have pizza for dinner. I don't know why Dad's so silly like that. So now here's the thing. I just told you your dad's an asshole. I just told you your dad's someone to be afraid of. He doesn't know how to take care of you. All those things, but I didn't say any of it. And when that kid gets assigned an attorney, okay, which is what happens in really ugly contested custody proceedings, they're gonna ask that kid, so does Mom ever talk bad about Dad? And the answer is no. The answer is no. Mom said nothing about Dad overtly bad there, but that's negative gatekeeping. And that's what we do. That's what we do. People don't sit around and say to their partner, I no longer love and respect you. I find you unattractive. In fact, I think you're the most loathsome harpy ever to castrate a man. No one ever says that. It's just the sort of, what? Yeah, all right, whatever, fine, yeah. And then you're back to your phone. Or just sitting there talking to the person, huh? Yeah, no, that's cool. What? Yeah, no. And all you're saying is, you suck, you have no value to me, you're not interesting to me anymore, you're not as compelling as whatever's going on in this fucking box in my hand. And that's what it is. So when people say oh, my partner, they no longer, they no longer inspire me, they no longer excite me, it's like a real chicken and the egg conundrum there. Because it's well, how much of this was you ignoring your partner and not validating your partner, not giving your partner any affection, not giving your partner any attention of any kind? And look, we're all guilty of this when we first start dating someone. When we all start dating someone, we're trying to close the deal. And we spend all this time just trying to, we see the best in them. We bring out the best in them. We're interested and we're interesting. We bring our best self to the equation. And everything they do, we find it fascinating. We tell them how fascinating it is, how wonderful they are and how beautiful they are. And then I don't know how the fuck that works, that it's in the job interview, you're so gung-ho about getting this fucking job, and then you get the job you were dying to get, that there were other candidates for. When the romantic thing, 8 billion other candidates, and you got the fucking job. And now, yeah, whatever, I'll show up late, I'll phone it in, I won't get and then you wonder why it didn't work out. Or you wonder why your partner doesn't feel inspired by you anymore, doesn't want to accommodate you anymore. And again, I said it the last time we talked, it doesn't have to be like that. You can reverse that spiral. It takes some effort, but I think you can reverse it by just fucking going back to that place in your head. And minor, how good does it feel for all of us when somebody just pays us the slightest compliment, the slightest bit of attention, shows us the slightest courtesy, gives us a little bit of grace?
It's so powerful.
It's so powerful. And when you're first dating someone, you're just overflowing with that abundance, right? You're just, anything they do, if they snort when they laugh, you're oh, she snorts when she laughs, I fucking love it. Whereas a year into the relationship, it's oh my God, her fucking laugh, they're snorting. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why that happened. Now again, I get that it's a spiral. I get that one of you at some point starts to let that slip, and then there's the resentment spiral starts and starts and starts, and it's a straight line right to my office from there, But it's a pattern. I have a guy who's on his 3rd supermodel right now. He's a big, he's in private equity, worth billions. And he's married his 3rd supermodel. He just keeps marrying fucking models. And then he cheats on them with models. So I just find him, what are you? You're doing the same thing. You're running the same program over and over, and you think there's gonna be a different result, And every one of them, by the way, goes down the same path for like a couple of years. They're super into him, and then they start being like annoyed and resentful of him, and then they all start getting tons of cosmetic procedures, and they start to look like that weird, like like that weird stretched out thing that all the housewives on the shows have. And then they wonder why he goes for like the fresh-faced, younger version of it. Because literally the only thing between them was he has money and she's hot. Like, that's it. There was no other dynamic there. Like, you can make up some other stuff and be like, oh, she's nice and she listens to me. But like, it's purely, he's rich, she's hot. That's it. That's the equation. You don't need to go dig deeper than that. It's like this dog's being nice to me. Right, you're feeding it bacon. Of course it's going to be fucking nice to you. Like, it's like, who doesn't like that dynamic? Like, you're rich, she's hot. This is going to work. Here's the problem. He's going to get more rich. She's going to get less hot. You didn't see that coming? You didn't see that coming when it started. Like, you didn't know that that's where this equation was going to go. Like, did you think, and by the way, it goes the other way too. Like, I've had the guys, especially the pandemic brought this one out, where it was suddenly a different spiral. See, because for years, the game was a little bit rigged in favor of men, because like the guy would get richer and the woman would invariably age and get less hot. So that changed with the pandemic, because all of a sudden, like, people who had really successful businesses were straight up out of business. So you had people that were like one day owning an amazing restaurant that like everybody wanted to come to, and all of a sudden it was shuttered. And it had a burn rate. So in like 2 months, the thing closed down. And all of a sudden, the guy who was like super rich, and there's no, because, listen, the first million's the hardest. Like, once you've made $1 million, it's pretty easy to turn $1 million into 10 million. Whereas turning $100 into $1 million, it could take a lifetime to accomplish that. But once you got $100 million, you're gonna be fine. Like, you're gonna turn that 100 million into 500 million pretty easily if you try. So the truth is, like, these guys aren't used to spiraling in the other direction, but it went exactly that way. Like, a bunch of people's businesses got shuttered, and the hot women, like, I wish I could say, like, it would be wonderful if I could say, like, and this is proof that women are just better than men, because fundamentally, like, although these men, they abandon this woman when she loses the beauty of her youth, the women, when they lost their financial health, the women stayed. Bullshit. Abso-fucking-lutely not. They were out. They were out the door. Like, they were out the door with half of whatever was left, and they were out like it was a fire sale. Like, they were like, shit, this ship's going down. I'm out of here right now. Like, it was 2020. We were filing actions while the court was closed. Because women were like, no, we got to get a snapshot right now of what the assets are, because I want one half of the value right now, because I think in 6 months this could all be gone. So that was like for me, a lesson in like, oh, okay, so women are as awful as men when it comes to this. Like, that's good. It's good to know that there's, equality of the sexes.
Do you see a difference in I don't even know what word to use, but the likelihood that there'll be a good partner? Do you see one sex as being better than the other at this?
Oof, boy, that's the question, isn't it?
I mean, it's really like there's the talk with Orion. You guys spoke about the unspoken things in a relationship that are so important, but we're not allowed to speak about them.
Yeah.
Which is for the man, it's the fact that I just love the way you look and your body and the curve of your waist and ass and hips. It's just we never. I mean, I guess guys do talk about that sometimes, but in general, the fact that the woman's sexiness and attractiveness is. You'll put up with a bitchy woman, you'll put up with a mean woman, you'll put up with a pain in the ass, a bipolar woman, because she's so hot. Yeah. Whereas for a woman, the fact that she's attracted to a man because the fact that he is a good provider and a protector, and she's going to provide a lifestyle that she can't achieve on her own. And there are exceptions to this where the woman is the provider and the caregiver.
Yeah. Increasingly so.
But we don't speak about these things. We talk about how kind somebody is.
We have such a hard time accepting that there is an aspect of romantic love, and particularly marriage, that is an economy. Like, we don't want to call it that, because an economy feels like it's like cheapening it and turning it into something that's purely financial. But what is an economy other than we're exchanging value? So my labor translates to dollars. Those dollars translates to bananas. So a certain amount of my labor is worth a certain amount of bananas, and that's like how it works. That's an economy. And it's not a dirty word. Like, no one ever walks around and says like, I can't believe my pursuit of justice on behalf of my clients is being compared to purchasing bananas. Like, fuck you. You do your job for money. I do my job for money. Yes, I also enjoy what I do. I see value in it. I think I provide value to people and to the world. I believe in the system. I think that we have a good legal system that requires vigorous advocacy. But, do I do do my job just for the love of the game? Like, fuck you. Like, who does that? Like, Major League Baseball players, like, they just play baseball for fun, or musicians just play music for fun? Fuck you. You want to be famous, you want to make money. Or else you just be playing in a cafe because it's just the love of the music, right? Like, you monetize things. I get it. That's capitalism. Like, don't get mad at the game, you know? Like, that's the rule set. But I mean, to say that, you know...
That's why socialism doesn't work.
Well, of course, but see, look, what is marriage but an economy? Like, marriage is, look, I'm going to bring certain value to this relationship, you're going to bring certain value to this relationship. The key problem I have with marriage as it is done currently here in the West, and in other places, but certainly the clay in which I work, is that there are certain promises the law can enforce, and there are certain promises it can't. So if we acknowledge, if we say the quiet part out loud, that in the majority of heterosexual marriages, the man brings protection and providing, and the woman brings kindness, warmth, and care, right? And sex. That's the economy. That's the economy. I didn't make that up. Don't get fucking mad at me in the comments. I didn't make it up. It was here before me. It's going to be here after me, I promise, right? So that's the game. That's the economy. His roles, his obligations are enforceable by law. So state power can be used to enforce his obligations, not hers. The court cannot order her to be nice to him, or to fuck him, or to stay pretty, or to stay sweet and friendly to him and kind to him, or speak nicely of him, or raise the children in a meaningful way that, you know, creates value to him instead of teaching them to disrespect him, right? But his promises in that, shelter, food, financial obligations, court can force you to do that. And if you don't do it, they can put you in jail, or they can take away your driver's license, your professional licenses. So what is that? When you have a contract where only one side is enforceable by law, under penalty of law, like, that is a dangerous game to play if you're a man, period.
Is that unfair? It's not always the man, because sometimes the woman is the...
Yeah, increasingly so, but it's more often still.
But is that whole contract of marriage and divorce, is that unfair to the wealthier person?
Well, I would argue that it's what's called an adhesion contract. An adhesion contract in law school, they teach you, is a contract where there is an imbalance of power between the parties entering into the contract, so as that the contract itself is fundamentally unfair. You know, it's like, look, I'm not saying that it's wrong that we allow people to enter into this transaction. Similarly, like, if there's an unknown musician and a major record company says, okay, we're going to sign you and make you famous and give you amazing producers and give you amazing people to work with, but we're going to keep 75% of the revenue for the rest of your career. Like, that's, you know, it's not a great, fair contract, but the truth is there's a lot of musicians out there and they can go on to the next one if they needed to, you know? So once you sign that deal, like, just know you're signing a deal that's kind of unfair. You're signing a deal, you don't have to sign it.
Well, when you get married, I've been married, I've been divorced one time. And
You both.
Both of us, yeah. And I think when you're getting married, you never even consider the fact that you might get divorced. We fall in love, and we're just like...
And that's part of the reason, I have to tell you, it's part of the reason why I always loved the idea of working in divorce. Because I was a psychology major as an undergraduate. I thought I wanted to be a therapist. I thought I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And I remember thinking, because it was like the one thing, like, we're so full of shit. We're so full of shit as a culture all the time about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I just love, just be fucking honest. Like, just be honest. And what was so beautiful to me about it is you can't pretend you meant to get divorced. You didn't. I didn't. Like, we're both divorced men. When we got married, I was 22 when I got married. And we were going to stay together forever. We were going to be old people sitting on the front porch holding hands while the kids or grandkids ran around, because I believed it. I believed the whole thing, because I had no idea. I had no idea what was in store, what would be expected of me, expected of her, how we would both feel, how we would both change. Like, because how could you? How could you possibly know that at 22 years old or 24 years old or even 30 years old? Like, I'm 51, man. I look back at the shit I believed when I was 30 and I go, how was I that stupid? How did I not see such obvious things about myself? But that's the nature of blind spots, is you can't see them. That's why they're blind spots. So I think fundamentally, we don't look at marriage honestly because we want to believe so badly in this fairy tale. And why wouldn't we? It's fucking beautiful. It's like a beautiful, the idea that there's just this person out of 8 billion people and you're just gonna somehow stumble into them. And then the two of you are gonna feel that rush that we all feel even in the worst of relationships at the beginning, and you just, like, we wanna believe it's so true. I have to say something. I used to say, when you're like a kid, you have like the fantasy if you could be invisible, like what would you do, And always when you're a teenage boy, you're like, I would be in like the girls' locker room or something. It would always be something that involved seeing boobs. But as an adult, I have to say, if I had the power of invisibility right now, I would break into a number of my clients' homes and go to their attic and find their fucking wedding album. Because I would love in a way I can't describe, to look at their fucking wedding photos. Because the only experience I've had of these people is her on one side of the courtroom and him on the other side of the courtroom, and them just shooting daggers at each other across and like sniping at each other however they could, either directly or through their counsel. And like the thought of like looking at these same two people, like looking at each other with such like, oh, you're my person, I love you. Like, that's amazing. And by the way, don't you think we should like take people who are about to get married and make them look at the fucking wedding video of those people and then make them come to court and watch it and just go, look, this is like, why don't we do like Scared Straight? You remember they used to do Scared Straight? Like, they're like, you want a gangbang kid? Well, now we're gonna bring you and show you what your future's like and bring you to prison. Like, why don't we do that with like young marrieds? People get engaged and it's like, great, before you can legally marry, you have to come hang out in the matrimonial part of New York County Supreme Court. And you just have to sit there and watch these two people who used to fucking love each other just as much as the two of you think you do. And now they are tearing each other apart limb from limb like it's blood sport. And they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees just for the pleasure of torturing each other. And I'm telling you right now, like anybody who sat through that, I wish I could say they'd sit through it and they'd go, okay, you've opened my eyes to this. They wouldn't. They'd be like, well, that's them. They didn't truly love each other the way that my fiance and I truly love each other. And I'd say, I would have said the same thing at 22 or probably 24, but I don't know when people sort of see the Matrix and go, oh shit, okay. And sometimes I see it happen like in my conference room. Like sometimes I'll have a client and he's just sitting there and I'll start going through things and he'll go, oh, like, oh shit, this was like a professional hit, And that's, I mean, it's always humbling to be in the presence of that. I don't know, I think women and men we suffer from the exact same delusion. I think the system fucks with people on both sides of that. But I think men really take the brunt of the hit a lot of the time. Like, and I don't want to, I've been sort of, criticized as being, red pill or being very, but look, I'm just calling it like I see it. I think anybody who's rational and doesn't have an agenda would tell you that men have a hard time in divorce litigation, harder time than women a lot of times. I'm not suggesting that it's easy to be a divorced woman. I think women have unique challenges when they're divorced. I talked about that in our last conversation, but I think the system itself is very, very hard on men.
Yeah, as a guy who's been through it, I would agree. But you use that setback as a motivation to do better in the rest of your life.
And ideally you do. I mean, the fun part for me about what I do, I mean, there's a lot that's fun about what I do, in that it's intellectually very exciting and it's like always, it's never boring. I'd rather be dead than bored. But one of the things that is really nice is you do see the arc of someone's sort of recovery from the implosion of their life, And I have clients who like, they come in and they're just fucking destroyed. Like, I'm not laughing at them, I'm just laughing at like oh fuck. Like, there's something so humbling about watching someone who's just been leveled, like that they just can't even pretend that this went the way they wanted it to. And their spouse is cheating on them or, whatever it is. And they just found out in like a cruel, awful way. It's almost always some glitch with Apple. I have to tell you, I think Steve Jobs from his grave is like responsible for more divorces than he could ever possibly know.
How's that?
Because Apple's integration among all of its devices causes your iMessages to pop up fucking everywhere.
No, like I don't have a whole lot of secrets going on in my life, but if I did, and like on my desktop of my computer at my office and at home, these texts keep showing
Oh
up.
yeah, messages pop up. On your iPad, they pop up, and the kid's playing with the iPad. You leave your Apple Watch laying somewhere, and it has messages on it.
Who the fuck is blowing you kisses
Yeah,
at 2 in the morning?
That's exactly right. And by the way, sometimes the answer is like a dude in Bangladesh trying to steal my money. It's not like a person, but it creates this discussion of like, oh my God, what's going on?
It's a horrible technology.
Well, yeah. And what's happened is there's so many people that find out very cruelly, these kinds of things. Because of course, people just can't fucking keep their shit together. They just send text messages of like, last night's sex was so wonderful. You're like, why are you texting that? Why are you texting that to your married partner? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, that's gonna blow up in your face somehow. Like, was the rush or the tingle you got from sending that message worth the chaos that's about to cause? But it happens all the time. And I have these people come into my office and they're in this place of like shock and sadness and grief and like all the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross stages of death and dying. They all go through it when it comes to the death of a relationship. And I watch them over the course of 6 months, 8 months, like go through anger, denial, sadness, bargaining, all those things. And then eventually like come out the other end. And like 3-4 years later, I get invited to their next wedding. And by the way, they invariably get remarried. By the way, I have a standing offer that I've been making for 25 years that I've been doing this, which is if I do your divorce, I'll do your prenup for free for your next marriage. And everybody at the start of the divorce, when I say that to them, well, next time you get married, I'm gonna do your prenup for free. They go, oh, I am never getting married again. They're always foolish. 86% people remarried within 5 years. I said it last time and it's still true. I tell you, I've only had 3 people take me up on that. But you know how many people get remarried? Tons. But they're like, oh no, this time it's different. This time it's different. Like last time you spent $800,000 in counsel fees and a year of your life just in court constantly. And no, but this time it's different because this time we love each other. Got it.
I think you've single-handedly done more for the concept of prenups than anybody else.
I have to tell you, if there has been a side effect of my conversation with you, my first conversation with you, it has been an inflow of prenups. I have more people, which by the way, why couldn't I have found a way to publicize much more expensive things that I do? Prenups, you don't make a lot of money on prenups. Like prenups are really easy to do, make a couple of grand doing a prenup, but it takes us, a certain amount of time to do it. Like I really should have come up with like some other thing I could monetize, because I get more calls from people saying, oh, I saw you on stuff on Underbelly, or I saw you here there, and I'd like to, you to do my prenup. And I mean, it's great. I think it is great that there's a proliferation of people that have figured out like, yeah, we should get prenups. And by the way, I'm seeing it on both sides now. I'm seeing a lot of women now coming in and saying, oh yeah, let's have a prenup. I have a lot of people who, this happens a lot. I've had a lot of people who saw my first interview and they go, yeah, my girlfriend and I watched it in bed. And I was like, you guys should find better shit to do in bed than watching an interview with me, for 3 hours. But they'll say, oh yeah, we were watching it in bed and we both got a kick out of it. But we both were like, oh, we should do a prenup. And so can you meet with both of us? And I'm not really allowed, we're not allowed to do that because it's a potentially adverse situation, like more for you is less for you and more for you is less for you. But it's always very cool to me to think that like there are people sitting around.
A couple can't come into your office to get a prenup?
They're really not supposed to. I mean, because you can only represent, as an advocate, you can only represent one person in the transaction.
You should figure out a way around that. Because if I was about to marry somebody, I would want us both to, I always saw prenups as something that would destroy the purity of a truly loving relationship. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just like, there's an element of risk.
Sure.
In a marriage and something like that. And the prenup kind of takes away that risk. Now you know what you have to lose, you know what you have to win, and that's it. And it's like that seems to taint the purity of the love.
See, and I don't see it that way.
No,
because
I
genuinely don't think that the risk of love is what makes love compelling. I think that there is an element of risk in love, but if anything, I think that element of risk actually, like, to me, dampens the depth of love. Like there's something wonderful about genuinely trusting your partner and knowing that they're there because they want to be there.
Yeah, that's my mistake because I think I'm an adrenaline junkie. So I'll find these riskier partners. And I think that's part of I mistake that as love. But
and that's a pretty common mistake, I think. But, the way you should be looking at it is the way I encourage people to look at it, which is you have a prenup. Every marriage has a prenup.
This is where I was
it's
leading.
either a prenup written by the legislature,
exactly,
or it's a prenup written by you and the person you're picking out of 8 billion other choices. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's a no fucking brainer. Like, I don't trust Chuck Schumer more than I trust my romantic partner, you know? And I think the reality is not only can the legislature change, but they can dramatically change the law. Like in 2016, spousal support or alimony in New York State, they changed it to a formula. Completely changed it. Then Trump came into office and got rid of the taxability of alimony, the deductibility by the payer and the taxability to the recipient. So that completely changed the way alimony works. So again, those people have a prenup. They just don't know it, right? It was written by the legislature and it can be amended by the legislature with like, and by the way, what's the legislature but a bunch of fucking people that want a popularity contest? Like, so it's not the best and brightest. Like, no one's ever gone to the DMV and said like, oh, this is the best and most efficient people in the world. No, they're fucking people that wanted a government job. Like judges, with all due respect to the bench, like judges are not like the best, brightest, hardest working lawyers who are the most tenacious and thoughtful and knowledgeable. Like you occasionally have a judge who you go, holy shit, that one really is smart. But most of the time it's people that were like, yeah, I kind of want a 9-to-5 job and I'd like to have a pension and good health care. And I'd like when people have to stand up when I enter a room, you know, and call me your honor. Like it's sort of an ego thing more than anything else because they could make 5, 10, 15 times the money if they were in private practice. So the truth is, like a lot of times it's not the best and brightest. So the politicians, the same thing. Like you think they're going to solve the problem? You think they know your relationship and what you need and your partner needs better than the two of you do?
I'd much rather do it with my partner than with the state.
Of course. And by the way, just the conversation is valuable. Like, why not have the conversation with your partner of like, hey, what do we owe each other? Like, what do we owe each other here? Like, and what does that origin come from and why? Like, what am I giving versus what you're giving? And what am I giving up in exchange for what you're giving up? You know, like, what is this economy? But see, that's the part, again, and I can't figure out if we don't want to talk about that economy because it's unfair. And if we look at it, we're going to go, wait a minute, you know, like the true concept of a red pill. Like we're going to swallow it and go, oh no, wait a minute, this makes no sense. And then we're just going to march on to extinction. Or if it really is that like, well, we just, you know, I don't want to know any astronomy when the stars appear. Like there's something very magical about it and I don't want to look at it. And like, and we've just created disincentives to look at it, you know. I genuinely think anytime somebody tells me, oh, you don't need a lawyer, you definitely need a fucking lawyer, you know? And anytime somebody says, like, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you, you are definitely about to fucking lie to me. Like, so it's the same thing with this. Like, whenever somebody's like, oh, how could you say that? Okay, I'm hitting some nerve somewhere. Like 6 million people watched that first interview. Like, it's hitting a nerve in somebody, gang. Like, people are watching that and going, yeah, I don't like that that's true, but that is true, you know? And I think that's the reality. Like, and nobody wants to call it out. Like, so we create all these comfortable illusions, these precious illusions that we hold on to so tightly of like, you know, well, we both bring things to the relationship. You know, he brings, you know, money and stability and security, and I bring that I picked that couch. Okay, like really? Because I could fucking hire an interior designer and it would be a lot cheaper than a spouse. So you gotta bring more than you can pick a nice couch. Like you gotta bring more than that. Well, I do the laundry. Okay, I can pay someone to do the laundry. Like, do you know how many of these things are easy to recreate? So what is the economy? Like if it's an economy, if there's any aspect to love or marriage that is an economy, like let's be honest with ourselves about what we're trading for what. And it's okay, like it doesn't have to be exactly the same value. Like I don't believe that fairness, right, or you know, requires that everyone brings the same exact things to the table or things of the exact same value to the table. It's just, you know, like when you look at Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, like we wouldn't be using iPhones if we hadn't had both of those people. And one of them was an engineer, one of them was a math guy, one of them was a guy with a solid workbench who knew how to make shit. And the other guy was a visionary who just could imagine things. And then, but he'd have just been like a derelict who had an interesting imagination if it wasn't for somebody who knew what the fuck they were doing. And if you just know how to do stuff, but you have no vision or creativity, you're useless. But together, you're Keith and Mick. You know, together, you make the magic. And that's why we have iPhones and iPads, which can then fuck up everybody else's marriages. Like we have all of this because people with disparate qualities and disparate gifts to give to the transaction went, hey, let's do this.
We're a good team.
You know? But again, like, where does it break down? Well, use them again as an example. It broke down when one of them says, well, you'd be nothing without me. And the other one says, well, you'd be nothing without me. And it starts to fall. Well, why not have the conversation early and often about, hey, am I still giving, like, do you still feel like this is a good deal? Like, do you still feel like, because I want my partner to always feel like it's a good deal. I want every single day for them to go like, yeah, all in, it's a good deal. Like, yeah, this week I gave more than I got. But you know what? 2 weeks ago, I got more than I gave. Like, you know, and so, or when I was going through that thing, when my mom was dying, man, I got a lot more than I gave. And you stuck around. Like, and there's so much value to that. And there's so much beauty in that.
That's
like,
what makes a relationship really great, is when there's a magic between these two people
course.
that came together.
Yeah, and the nature of love is that. I mean, look, I have sons. There are chapters of my sons' lives where I wanted to fucking kill them. You know, like middle school, I hated my sons. They were impossible. They rolled their eyes at me. They were just miserable all the time. And again, I understand why. I was in middle school. I remember what it's like. You're a fucking walking gland. Everything's awful. Like, it's just, the happiest person in middle school is fucking miserable. But the truth is, like, yeah, I didn't really like my kids at that age. You know, now they're a pleasure. Now they're adults. I love hanging out with them. When they were little, absolutely love them. But, you know, yeah, they're daddy. They love you so much. Like, I get it, you know, but the seasons of a relationship, I don't think there's anything wrong with like just calling it out and just saying, yeah, right now this is challenging, or right now we're missing each other, aren't we? Instead of just letting all that resentment build and build and build and build. Like, I always tell people that, you know, discovery, which is the process of mandatory financial exchange of information during a divorce proceeding, a contested divorce proceeding. Sometimes it can be 6 months. It can take it take forever to exchange, go through, you know, forensic accounting, go through everybody's books, especially in high net worth divorces. This is a very lucrative aspect of a divorce, is going through everybody's books and organizing and calling foul when somebody doesn't produce something and subpoenaing records and doing, you know, finding out where somebody took the mistress and here's the hotel receipt and here's the Tiffany's receipt. And, you know, it's this process of like weaponizing against your partner. And I remember once talking to my son when he was a teenager. And he said, oh, you know, it was just in the morning. And he said like, oh, what do you got at work today? Are you in court? And I said, no, I'm just doing a bunch of stuff for Discovery. And he said, oh, what's Discovery? And I said, it's what you get when you leave the toilet seat up for 20 years. Because it's what it is. Like, it's this resentment builds and builds and builds. And then you got this person, it's now their fault that your life is fucked up or that you're not happy in your life. It's their fault. The person who at the start of it, you were madly in love with. Again, the person who I want to see the wedding album. Like, I want to see the wedding video. Everybody has these wedding videos now that are just like so carefully produced and so amazing. Like, I want to watch the wedding video of someone who spent $3 million in counsel fees, like trying to fucking murder their spouse for the last 4 years. Like, I legit want to see that video. Like, because I can't imagine that these people loved each other in that way, in that intoxicated, public, all-consuming, I just want to shout it from the mountaintops how in love with this person I am way. But I think we've also created a tremendous, I know for women in particular, we've created a tremendous incentive to just get lost in the rush of the wedding. Like, the wedding is such a spectacle. Like, it is such a spectacle. I mean, I still go to weddings and I'm like amazed at how, I went to a divorce lawyer's wedding recently. And you'd think like a divorce lawyer's wedding would be like somewhat sedate, you know, considering what we do for a living. All the same shit. All the same traditional, you know, wedding stuff. And the cake thing and all of it. And I'm watching it, I'm like, we're gonna do this. We're just gonna all dive, like jump into this delusion with you, you know? And this is the clay you work in. And you're gonna do the whole thing. You're gonna do the chicken dance and you're gonna do the DJ. I'm introducing for the first time anywhere, Jane and John Smith, Mr. and Miss It. Like, you're gonna do that whole thing like you don't know where this goes, you know? And that, to me, it's fascinating. I actually said, because I'm the guy who says this shit, I was like, so prenup? Should do a prenup? She's like, no, we didn't really. Are you really? Like, we're susceptible to this illness too, huh? Like, we're not immune. We have no immunities. We have not built any immunities to this. So, I don't know.
Well, I think what we want is that true unconditional love, like similar to, I know you're a dog lover, it's similar to how a dog loves its owner.
Yeah.
And the way we love our dogs. You're so forgiving, you're so understanding, you'll tolerate bad behavior. You come back and, you know, your dog.
Yeah, I don't know how you make that love in a romantic setting it's so interesting to me, because I've felt I've felt unconditional love for every dog I've ever had, and I felt it for my kids. I don't know that I've ever felt unconditional love for a romantic partner. Like, when I describe unconditional love, what I mean is if this person vomited on you, the only thing you can think is, are they okay?
No, but it's like if you had, God forbid, a terrible accident, you're disfigured, you no longer are tall and attractive.
Yeah.
Or let's say you lost your business by some freak accident and you no longer were, successful and smart. Your dog would still love you 100%.
Of course, because they love something about you that's so easy. And that is that you love them too, and that you keep them warm and you snuggle them and you feed them, and like there's a simplicity to that relationship.
Why can't we love each other like that?
I don't know. I remember the first time I really understood like the depth of unconditional love was when my he's now 27, but he was like 3 or 4 at the time, my son, and he was sick. And he woke up in the middle of the night, he had a very high fever, and I was like holding him and trying to like calm him down, and he puked all over me. And I remember all I could think was, I don't want him to be scared. Like, I don't want him to feel like, I don't want him for a second. And I remember I was like, just going, it's okay, oh, it's okay. And nothing in me thought, oh, fuck, gross, like, like if you puked right now, I'd be like, whoa, like I would step right back, and the smell of it would probably make me, but him, nothing in me pulled away. Nothing in me, I had such clarity of purpose. Like there wasn't any part of me that felt anything other than stay calm, make sure he knows he's okay.
Take care of him.
Don't let him be scared. Because I love him that way. It just was like, I was like, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, get it out. It's okay, get it out, And I remember thinking like, wow, this is it. Like, this is the thing. Like, this is that kind of love. I don't know. Listen, it would be amazing to have that with a romantic partner. Like, there's something about just the purity of that love. And there is something about dominion. I mean, you have dominion over your kid, you have dominion over your animal. And by dominion, I don't mean dominance. I mean like loving stewardship. Like, they wouldn't be okay without you. They need you. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we're having such fucking trouble in society right now with marriages, is like, your wife's not allowed to need you anymore. Like, if she needs you, she's doing something wrong. She's not a boss babe. She's not a girl boss. Like, and there's something about like when someone needs you that it makes you feel like, oh no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be heroic. Like, I'm going to rise to the occasion. Like, one of the things I love about being a man is like providing. I see that as a fucking gift. Yeah, I can do this. I can go out into the world and bend it to my will. And then I can bring that home and take care of the people I love. And I'm fucking proud of that.
It's part of being a man.
It's the best part of being a man. I embrace that. I welcome it. Like, I want to put the women and kids to bed and go out looking for dinner, and bring it home. Like, that's what I want to do. And then I want you to prepare it. And I want you to greet me with warmth and gratitude, And like, I think we've created a situation now where that's a dirty word. Like, it's a dirty thing to say. But think about how we feel about our kids, how we feel about our companion animals like dogs and cats. There's an element of need there. This person needs me. Like, our love of animals is not, in my opinion, a function of that they have rights or that they have any, like, they don't. They all are powerless and trembling to our power. And yet, like, we still will care for them, because we see that we have power over them. We have dominion over them. So if your partner and your spouse, like, think about, like, when you're talking about, like, well, why do I feel this way about my dog? Why do I feel this way about my kids? Well, they need you. They need you. They're dependent on you. They trust you. And there's something about that trust in me that brings out a desire to be worthy of it. Like, I feel the way about my clients. Like, I love what I do, but part of it is like they've handed me the most important things in their lives and go, Jim, can you help with this? And I just look at that and go, oh, well, fuck yeah, I'm gonna do my best, man. Like, because you trusted me with this, you handed me this thing. But if they were like, I'm giving you this, but I'm not quite sure you're gonna do a good job of it, so I'm gonna make sure that I have somebody else on standby, I'd be like, well, then fuck you. Like, then don't use me then. Don't have me be your guy. You know, so I think it's kind of the same, you know, that there needs to be a rebalancing of like, you know, can we depend on each other? Can we trust? And I understand why particularly women, you know, are skeptical of that. It's like, yeah, there's a high cost to trusting somebody, you know, and if you trust the wrong person, like, yeah, you can get royally screwed over for it. But I just don't know. I think there's gotta be something there. Like the way we care about our kids, that unconditional love, the way we care about our pets I think that's an insight into the love we're capable of. And I think there are ways to leverage some of that same sensation towards our romantic partners. There has to be.
Yeah, I think back to what I said at the beginning of our talk, where I think you're a national treasure. I think it's because you are realistic and pragmatic about the dangers in marriages, but you also still love the idea of this, our infinite capacity for love.
Yeah, I still love love. I just don't believe in fairy tales. Like, and I don't think you have to believe in fairy tales to be a romantic. I don't think you have to believe in fairy tales to believe in the redeeming power of love and to believe that love is the most important thing in the world. Like, and anybody who, like, when somebody says like, oh, well, do you believe in love? I'm like, hey, of course, like, I feel it. I feel love. I feel love. I feel loved. Like, love is everything. But I don't believe in fairy tales. And I don't think we do ourselves any favors by believing in fairy tales. Like, I think that we do better. It's love to me, like an honest love, is the greatest thing in the world. Like, I don't have to like think my dog might just like me because I feed it. It's not gonna make me love it any less. Like, it's not gonna make it any less adorable to me. Like, it's okay. Like, we can say, like, it's okay to say to your partner, yeah, part of what I like about you is that you have sex with me. Like, I really love it because sex is really awesome. You know, like, that's okay. We know that, gang. Like, we can admit that. Whatever we're doing right now, fucking it'd be more fun. We can acknowledge that. Just say it out loud. It's okay. You know, so what are we doing? We're going to trade that, right? So if we're going to be in a monogamous relationship, what we're saying is, listen, I really like fucking you. And I also would really enjoy fucking lots of other people. But I am willing to forego the opportunity to fuck lots of other people in exchange for the opportunity to fuck you regularly. So can we agree that there's gonna be some minimum level of fucking that we're both gonna maintain for the purposes, and if the person said, well, yes, but you know, also one of the reasons why I fuck you is that you show tremendous kindness and grace towards me and you're complimentary to me. So could we, in exchange for those regular fuckings that are sufficient for you to forego all of the other potential fucking, that you're also going to show me a certain level of affection and attention that's going to make me feel good about myself for a period of time. Absolutely, very fair. This is a very fair transaction, right? So I know, like, okay, everyone's listening to that and going like, well, this is why I would not fuck a lawyer. Like, I get it. But isn't there something honest about that?
These are the unspoken things.
So why does it have to be unspoken? Like, would you like the fucking less? You know, if it was part of, if there'd been a discussion about it, like, and I'm not saying there has to be like this ongoing discussion, but can't you early in a relationship just say like, yeah, you know, like, this is the stuff I like about you.
But you're destroying the magic about it all.
Why?
The fairy tale is.
Why? Why? Listen, I've seen Star Wars. I know there's no such thing as Wookiees. They're not real. But I still like the movie. It's okay. Like, I know there were no actual dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. I still like the movie. Because why? Because it's cool. It's exciting. It moves fast. And it's why you didn't know what was going to happen. Love's the same thing. Like, really? Like, you don't know? Come on. You're a billionaire and a model is marrying you and you don't know this has to do with your fucking money. And that's okay, by the way. Like, money is value. Beauty is value. Just say it. Just say the quiet part out loud. Just say, yeah, you're a billionaire. You know what that's gonna be? It's gonna be amazing to be in the orbit of a billionaire. You fly private, the best of everything. Yeah, you're not the best looking person I'd ever met. My personal trainer's 50 times hotter than you, but he makes $50 an hour. You're a billionaire. You present me with incredible opportunities. And what I present to you, I'm stunningly beautiful. And I'm gonna be the most great arm candy. This is very fair. Like, why does this have to be a secret? And by the way, everybody knows. Like, everybody knows. It's not like you go to their wedding and go, you know, I think it's just that they both really feeling empathy towards each other. Or, they both love making a boat in a bottle. That was the hobby that bound them together. They both like pickleball. Like, it's not that. It's clear what this transaction is, and that's okay.
And we love to criticize it seems.
Why?
It's the envy.
But see, we criticize, I think you're onto something. I think we don't want to say, yeah, she's in it for the money and he's in it for the beauty.
The women are saying, I wish I could be her. The men are definitely thinking they wish they were him.
Sure. But what you do is we say it like it's a bad thing.
But they know they'll never be as beautiful as she is, and they'll know they'll never be as rich as she is.
So they dismiss it. So they go like, oh, well, she's only in it for the money. And it's like, yeah.
Let's see what she looks like in 10 years.
Right, but again, like...
if he lost all his money, he'd be fucked.
And look, I know a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, I know a few people who are happily married for a long period of time, who he was a great provider and she was stunningly beautiful. And she has aged in the way that everyone does. Mm-hmm. And they are still as crazy about each other.
That's great.
Because there are other things they bring to the table. Like, there are other things in that relationship. There's empathy, there's kindness, there's trust, there's support of each other. Like, there's other things. Like, yes, beauty is, that she's in the rat trap, or beauty is like the curb appeal, Like the mannequin in the window looks great and that gets you in the store, but the quality of the items is the store is what gets you coming back. It's not just the mannequin in the window. So I get that, like, beauty is an entry point. Even money is an entry point, gang. Like, it just is. Like, the difference in your life when you have $100 million or $500 million is negligible. It's negligible. There's only two amounts of money, enough and not enough. That's it.
Do you think some of that is because we are reluctant to grow old or to accept that we're going to be old? Everyone seems to be so in love with the idea of being 24 years old.
Well, I think
we want to be 24 forever.
This is what my next book is about. I think everything that happens in our society is a function of our fear of death.
Yeah.
I think everything comes down to our fear of death. We don't like aging because it reminds us we're going to die. Like, everything in this society is structured to prevent you from thinking about the fact you're going to die, which is the only truth we really have. Like, the only truth we really have, the only thing we can be certain of is you're going to die and I'm going to die. That's it. Everything else is almost an endless haze of possibilities. But you're definitely going to die and I'm definitely going to die. And everything in society is designed to prevent you from thinking about that. Because if you think about the fact that you're definitely going to die, and there is a definite number of summers you're going to see, and it's a finite number and you just don't know it yet. It might be 1, it might be 10, it might be 30. It ain't going to be 50, right? So if you know that, you are not going to care about the bullshit that people want you to care about. You are not going to care about, how can I get this car, or what watch do I have, or, my shirts are clean, but are they Clorox clean? You're not going to give a shit about any of that if you go, oh, wow, I'm going to die. Like, I'm telling you right now, the reason why I never looked at it the way other people look at it is I was a hospice volunteer for a really long time. And if I ever... I would never run for political office ever. But if I ever did, I would be on one platform, and that is that when people turn 18, they should have to spend a year as a hospice volunteer. Because if you spend a year with the terminally ill, you will never look at life the same again. For the rest of your life, you will have death right here in your peripheral vision, and you will never look at anything the same way again. You will not waste fucking time. You will not mince words. You will not be afraid. Like, because there's nothing to be afraid of, because you're gonna fucking die. Like, and none of this is really gonna matter. Like, so I think there's become this, again, this cultural push to care about bullshit, to just be distracted by bullshit, so that this game can just continue. Because if people really stopped and went, wait a minute, I have a finite number of days, and I'm not going to spend them being fucking miserable, being a cog in a machine, the purpose of which is like not to serve me, but to serve some greater, bigger thing enjoyed by the 1%, And I think that's, even marriage is a part of that. Marriage is a part of that. Marriage is about how do we tie people down into these small clusters and distract them, right? Because you get married, what do you need? Now we need a place to live. We got a place to live, what do we need? Now we should have kids. Well, we got kids, we're gonna need the wheel, we need the chair, and we need this, and we need the crib, and we need that. And it just puts people on this track. And then the next thing you know, you turn around and you're like, holy shit, I'm 70 years old. I got high blood pressure. I got 50 meds that I'm on now. I squandered my entire life chasing something. And now, okay, I've got ideally economic security, but I no longer have the physical health to really enjoy it in any significant way. And I no longer have really time. You know, like everybody I know who has time has no money, and everybody I know who has money has no time. And everybody else, by the way, is jealous of everybody. So like all the women I know who are like, oh, I'm dating a rich guy, they're like, yeah, but he has no time. And all the women I know that are dating a guy who has lots of time, they're like, yeah, but he has no money. You know, so everybody's just looking at, so unless you're like a trust fund kid who just has lots of money but doesn't actually have to work, but works because they enjoy their work, what percentage of the population is that? It's got to be tiny, right? So I just think we've set the rules of the game up in such a way that we're just jumping from one foot to the other. I mean, I call it job security. I guess I should be happy about it.
No, I see a big part of our problem now is that we all have these distraction devices in our hands. And if you go into like a doctor's office and there's 8 people in the waiting room, all 8 of them are under distraction.
Yeah, it's surreal. It's surreal.
And it's like, I just wonder what we were all doing. I remember what I was doing. I was dreaming about the future. I was trying to figure out ways to achieve my dreams. That's how my free time was spent.
See, I used to read. I don't know that people read anymore. I always loved to read, and reading requires like a certain imagination. It requires you to sit still in one place.
Why read when you can
like
be on
even
Instagram?
audiobooks, people just listen to like my audiobook outsells by like 10 to 1 the actual book. Because like reading a book requires that you sit someplace and you actually read.
In your voice?
Sorry?
Is your audiobook?
Yeah. It's 8.5 hours of me talking. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's like, I used to joke that that's like 7 hours longer than my ex-wife actually ever listened to me. So yeah, 8.5 hours that's a long time to listen to me talk.
You're a great speaker.
It's a long time to listen to me talk. But yeah, I mean, the audiobook did really well because I think that's the format people do it in, but it's because they're doing something else while they're listening, right? So how engaged are you really in that thing that you're doing if you're listening to an audiobook while you're doing it? Like, I get it. Like, I listen to audio. I used to run marathons, and when I would do like a 20-mile run, I would listen to a book, because you burn through a bunch of hours. But I have to tell you, like, yeah, I think we're all distracted, and the attention economy and the outrage economy is like definitely fueling some of this. And again, that war of the sexes thing that is everywhere online that I've been pulled into as a public-facing person who talks about relationships and gender stuff. I get dragged constantly by people like, oh, another white heterosexual man telling us what to do. And it's like, all right, guys, no problem. Like, don't listen to me. It's fine. Like, I'd prefer you don't listen to me. It's better for my bottom line if you don't listen to me.
You make more money.
Because you're gonna need me or someone just like me. So don't listen to me, it's fine. Like, I'm trying to keep you out of my office. I'm trying to have you actually see the delusion so that maybe you can do something about it. Or maybe you can get ahead of it. Like, I'm legit trying to help you, but that's okay. Like, listen, you try to feed a starving dog, it might try to bite you. Okay, cool, try to bite me. Like, I'm trying to help. Like, I'm not trying to shit on anybody. I didn't make it this way. Like, I wasn't responsible for gender roles in our society. I wasn't the one who sat down and said, like, how do we form the patriarchy? Like, it didn't happen. So, but it is the way that it is. And most people are unhappy right now. Like, most people, like, most of the time, what we're looking at on those devices is people talking about shit they're upset about. Like, that's most of what we do all day, is listen to people talk about shit they're upset about. Like, this election that's happening right now is just, here's the shit I'm upset about versus the shit that this person's upset about, and I'm upset about what shit they're upset about and not upset about, and back and forth. That's it. And that's all that's online anymore. Like, Twitter is a cesspool. Like, I went on Twitter for like a month, because I was like, oh, this will be good for engagement. I'll do I was on it, I was like, oh my God. All it is just people like fighting with each other and talking shit about each other and criticizing, building nothing, creating nothing, having no point of view other than a contrarian one against what somebody else said. Like, doing the cardinal mistake as a lawyer you never do, which is structuring your entire argument based on the opposite of the other person's argument. And therefore, giving them total control over your narrative. Because whatever you say, I'm just going to say the opposite. Great, so I'm now giving you total control over what it is that I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, marriage, relationships, romance, all that stuff is changing so much because of technology, because of just the way our world has changed.
Yeah.
Should we even get married? I mean, there still seems to be this societal pressure to oh, you're getting married, good for you.
Well, it's not only that there's societal pressure to get married, there's an assumption that you'll get married.
Yeah.
There's an assumption that if you don't get married, there's something wrong with you, which again, I've always said I think is fucking nuts. Because the perfectly sane response when someone says I'm getting married would be why? Why would you ever do that? Like there's more than 50% chance that's going to end in divorce. Why would you ever do that? Whereas it's like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Is it? Really? Like, is that, like, that's our reflex thing. It's like, oh my God, that's so great. Like when somebody, oh, my kid got engaged. Oh my God, that's so great. No, you don't know that that's so great.
It could be terrible.
It could be terrible. Like if somebody says, oh, I'm starting my own business. Oh my God, that's so great. Like, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm selling ice to Eskimos. Like, okay, that's not a good business. Like, that's terrible. It's a terrible idea. Like, so really what you'd say if somebody says, oh, I'm getting married, you say, okay, how long have you been together? How well do you know this person? What's the dynamic of your relationship? But we don't. We just go, oh my God, it's so great. It's so great. Why? Because it's great. It's a leap of faith. It's a triumph of faith over reason. So the question of should we get married? Like I've said before, I don't think marriage and love have very much to do with each other at all. I think that correlation is not causation. And to suggest that like marriage somehow solidified people's love or it's emblematic of the depth of their love or anything, bullshit, bullshit. All evidence to the contrary, you're wrong, I'm right, period. Like, look at the math of this, gang. Like, this is a technology that fails 56% of the fucking time. You cannot tell me that, like, well, you're just jaded. No, I'm not blind.
Probably more than 56% because there's plenty of people
right,
who
that's
stay
the
married.
Divorce rate.
Plenty of people.
How many people do you know that are unhappily married? I know more unhappily married people than divorced people.
Exactly.
So realistically, if you ask me, and I cannot prove this, I would say it's probably another 30%. That are miserably married or don't want to give away half their shit. Now you got to check that 86% of the time it fails. Are you kidding? And by the way, that about tracks for me. Because I know like what, 50 couples? And I know like 3 that are happy, maybe?
What's the secret in those 3?
They're really, I don't know, they know who they are, they like each other. The answer is they like each other. Like they treat each other like they like each other. They don't talk shit about each other. Like they're a unit, they're a thing, you know, like I don't know, man. I got this buddy, Chris, and he's so in love with his wife, Amy. And I knew Amy in college.
It's like you need to like the other person, even if they were married to your best friend.
I have to tell you, this couple's always been emblematic for me. And they fell in love for the reasons anybody falls in love. She was stunningly beautiful in college. I knew her, I was her good friend. And he thought she was super hot. And she liked him because he was like a muscle-bound, good-looking dude. He was also very charming and dominant. And they've been married like 28 years, something like that. 2 kids. Like she had a struggle with breast cancer. Like, I mean, they went through some shit. And they are crazy about each other.
That's great.
Like nuts about each other. To the point where you hang out with him and you talk to him when she's not around. And he refers to her as my girl. He's like, oh, well, my girl and I were gonna go do that. And I'm like, dude, you've been married this one for 28 years. Like, is she still your girl? Like, you're my idol. Like, that's so cool, man, that you still feel that way. But you know why he feels that way? Because she calls him my boyfriend. She's like, well, my boyfriend's coming home from his business trip on Tuesday.
And they're married.
And they're married for 28 years, 2 kids,
That's great.
Breast cancer, loss of jobs, moving, all these, they went through the bombs dropping. And they're crazy about each other. Because they're just fucking nice to each other. Like he treats her with so much respect. He's still like, oh my God, she's the most beautiful woman in the world.
That's great.
And you know what? She's still very beautiful, right? I knew her when she was 20, you know, and she's now in her 40s or whatever, or maybe 50s. She's still stunning for her age, right? But she's not one of these people that injects a bunch of, she's just like a naturally beautiful. But to him, he just still sees that 20-year-old. He still sees that girl he fell in love with. And I can tell she looks at him and she's like, he's my hero. He's the greatest guy in the world. He's like that. And you know, like, when I see that, I go, they won the lottery. And I don't mean like, oh, it's chance. I don't think it's chance. They just give a shit. They just pay attention. Like, I've never heard them say a bad word about each other. Like, they're honest about like, well, yeah, he's this way, you know, or yeah, she's like that. She gets so worried about this or that. But like, it's never with a sense of like, oh, like it's always with a sense of like, yeah, you know, he's got his way he likes to do things and that's it, you know? And like, there's just tremendous, again, they both bring tremendous value to the table. And I think that beauty thing to me, because I do think there is a tremendous, in heterosexual marriages, there's a tremendous amount, and probably in homosexual ones as well, but the feeling of like, okay, the man has this woman and she's beautiful and that's what she leverages as she brings beauty to the equation. But I think after a period of time, like, you kind of stop seeing like, I don't know with you, like I see a picture of myself from 20 years ago and I go, oh my God, like I don't realize how much I changed in 20 years, because you see yourself every day. Like whoever discovered water, it wasn't a fish, so you're in the thing, you don't see it. So I think when you're with a partner and you're with each other for that long, you maybe don't see each other age, that much. Like the way you envision each other is the way you envision. So that's great. Like just leverage that because, if you have enough affection for this person and there are couples that like you look at them, they've been together forever and you look at them and they go, they still fuck, I bet. Like they got that vibe about them. Like the two of them are still into each other, And I love that. Like I think that's really like, that's the secret. But I mean, here's the thing. What if it's that simple? Like what if it's just pay attention, be nice to your partner, fuck them, and compliment them. Tell them, just build them up. Just build them up, man. Like 99% of like personal and professional interactions are about just building up other people. Like that's really all it is. It's just bolstering other people and, trying to see the good in them even when they're not hitting it out of the park
but
at a
some
particular
people
moment.
they're just wired to be negative and other people are...
Well, and we're feeding the negativity right now.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
Negativity is very, very valuable right now. Like people tune in to watch shit get fucked up. People pay and want to see fails.
But like I can see in my life, I'm a very positive person. I'm always thinking about my partner's self-worth, mental health, happiness, all that. And it's like because of that, my relationships just flow so beautifully.
Yeah, because I think I think
and it's so easy.
just like Gandhi said that the perfect society would be an ordered anarchy. So people would do the right thing and do the orderly thing because they want to do it. It's the right thing to do, not because they were imposed to under power of law. Now, again, I think that's very Pollyanna in terms of the approach. But I think in relationships, there's something to that. Like, ideally, in a romantic relationship, I'm trying to build you up, you're trying to build me up, and so we're both getting built up. And that symbiosis really works, Yeah. But like any symbiosis, it's a very delicate ecosystem. So if you put like a new fungus into the ecosystem, all of a sudden it fucks the whole thing up because it changes what this one eats, which changes how this one gets eaten, which changes how this one, digests, which changes how this one decomposes, which changes the moss, like everything affects everything else. And I think a marriage or a relationship is exactly like that. It's an ecosystem. And so you throw new technology in, you throw, unanticipated changes into the relationship, and it can fuck up the ecosystem. That's why I think there's value in talking about something other than just criticisms of the relationship or of relationships in general. Talking about why, when we felt good about each other, what was it that felt so good? Like I've said this before that, you ever want to see people soften when they're talking about their partner, ask them about when they met. Everything changes in a person. When you say like, tell me how you met. Like they do the like, oh, well, I was this and then he was this. And like, you just see the softness come over them because it was this moment of like possibility, and we're just so drunk on like the imagining, because we live in imagination. I mean, I think we're the only species that really lives in imagination. The way we remember the past is to some degree in imagination, and certainly our perception of the future is imagination. So much of our time is spent in our own imagination. And at that moment, when you meet someone, some future romantic partner, you're imagining what they're going to be to you and what you're going to be as a function of that relationship, like where it's going to, the places we'll go, And so why not, like in your day-to-day, still put value in imagining the possibilities of the two of you or talking about, like, when did we last feel really connected? Like it's a question that our society is never going to want you to ask the question of like, when's the last time you felt really good? When's the last time you felt really happy? What were you doing? And the answer might be surprising. Like it's very funny. There's a line in Glenn Ross, I think it is, where he's talking about sex. And he says, like, when I remember lovers of my past, I don't remember the orgasm. That's not what I remember. I remember the way the light hit her body when she got out of the bed. I remember the curve of her back. I remember the look of her face, like with a little hair hanging down with a little sweat. Like, that's what I remember. Like, I don't remember the moment of ejaculation. Like, I remember some like glimpse, some photograph in my mind of that. And it's emblematic for what that felt like, right? So if we know that, then why wouldn't relationships be about like creating those moments, like curating those moments, like reminding ourselves of what were the conditions under which that moment was felt, and how do we go back to that? How do we not get away from that, so far away from the shore of that we could never swim back?
Yeah.
Because that's the direct path to me.
We don't remember those moments. We don't imagine ourselves as the other person. Because they're getting older. You know, for a female romantic partner, you envision yourself as, okay, when she was 25 and beautiful, she looked a certain way, felt a certain way to be around her, but now she's 55. Mm-hmm. And she's dealing with things that every woman has to deal with at 55.
But see, men get a lot of shit for this because a lot of men, there's this perception that like men just like, and again, I don't know, maybe it's just pushed by popular media, but there's this perception, which I don't know if it's an accurate one. I don't think it is in my experience, professionally and personally, that like men just like find a beautiful woman and then they kind of grow tired of her and she gets older inevitably and it's not her fault. And then they just find a younger model and that's it. Like, I'm sure there are examples of that, of course, but I don't think that's how it works. I really think the toxic thing people don't talk about is that lack of appreciation for what a person brings to your life. Like there's a period of time, like a lot of what men do, it's not that sexy. Like I pay the electric bill. That's not that sexy. Like I can't remember the last time somebody said to me like, oh my God, it's so great that the lights work. Like it's so great that we have internet. You know, like they don't do that. It's like, no, it's just there. It's supposed to be there.
But a great partner, a great female partner understands that.
What does it cost to just say,
yeah,
you know, it occurs to me that I'm so fucking lucky.
Yeah.
Like, and how good does that feel, man? Oh my God, that's a drug. I chase that dragon all day long.
That is what men want more than anything.
More than anything. Oh my God. When somebody says, I eat my employees.
And so many of these entitled women don't understand.
They don't understand that. It's so easy.
It's so
easy to just say, like, you know, I'm so lucky. Like, you do such a good job. Man, you try so hard. You do such a good job. Like, I just appreciate what you do. And like, by the way, look at it. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I've always liked your channel is that, you know, you can complain about your fucking life, man, but then you watch like, you know, somebody who was sexually abused as a child and now has substance abuse issues and mental health issues that they're dealing with. And you look at it and you go, I am so ungrateful. I should be ashamed of myself. Like that my biggest problem today is like, oh, I'm very busy. I may not have time for lunch. Yeah. Like really? Like, oh my, the shit people, it's like being a hospice volunteer. You know, it's like you look at what real people are dealing with. And, you know, I think it's very easy for someone to say, yeah, you know, like I was thinking about the fact that like, if it wasn't for you, like my life would look so different right now. You know, like it's Tuesday afternoon and I'm at home. You know, I'm at home with, you know, a safe, comfortable home and the electricity's on. Like, and I'm so lucky for that, you know? And like, what does it take to say that to your partner?
A humble partner, female partner who's not acting entitled, who just is appreciative.
Yeah. And by the way, here's the cheat code. When you have a humble female partner in a heterosexual relationship who's like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for like the fact that you want to get her the Hermes bag.
Oh yeah,
because she's not an ungrateful bitch.
You're gonna give her 4 times
because you just are like, look at this, you know. Here, look what else I can do.
That is the fuel.
I mean, you could be a CEO or a garbage man. You could be 20 or you could be 80. Any heterosexual male, if you go, I can't open this jar, can you help me? We all go, oh, yes, I certainly can. And open the jar, and we feel like $1 million. You know why? Because we love that we can do that. So I don't know why anybody didn't figure that cheat code out. Like the more entitled you act, the more you act like, well, I helped you build this. This is our money. The more you do that shit,
the tighter we get.
The more that I'm like, you know what? Take your fucking half. See ya. I'll make more. But if I'm telling you, somebody's figured this out there, or someone should.
There are women that have figured this out.
I think there are. Yeah, I think there are.
So explain it for the women that are still like trying to grasp this.
I think the idea is just, you know how you feel when your guy says, man, I've married the prettiest girl in the whole world. you know, like, I'm so lucky to have you, like, you're so great, you know, that feeling you have inside of like, oh, you know, like, okay, it's the same exact thing. When you say to a guy, you know, like, I'm so lucky to have you. You know, I was talking to my girlfriend the other day who's going through something, and the guy she's with just can't get his shit together. And like, just the fact that you do such a good job of like making sure that, you know, we're safe and we have the things we need. Like, every guy, that's like asking us to open the pickle jar. Like, we just feel like, yeah, oh, thanks, you know? Because listen, like, it's a grind doing what we do. And all we really want at the end of it is some little bit of sweetness, most of us.
Gratitude makes a guy want to do all the things that women want them to do.
I have to tell you something, I've spent hours and hours with divorcing men of all income levels, from billionaires to millionaires to, you know, the very working class earlier in my career. And they all tell me the same story. And that story is some variant of that she's not grateful at all anymore. Like, there was a time where I was her hero and now I'm not. And that's what the girlfriend is. Like, don't fucking kid yourself. The girlfriend half the time is nowhere near as hot as the wife. But you know what she is? She's grateful. She's grateful. She's grateful. She's effusive in her gratitude. She makes him feel like a hero. She squeals with delight at his jokes, at his sex, at his whatever. She's just delighted, as opposed to irritated, short-tempered, talking about all the things she doesn't have. Like, you ever want to just wreck a guy's day? Tell him that, like, oh yeah, you know, like, Karen got this, you know, and so not, and you're like, and he's like, well, you said you wanted that, so I got you this instead. Like, and it's such a, you listen to it and you're just like, why would you do that? Why would you do that to that guy? Like, he wouldn't come, I mean, ideally, he wouldn't come home and go like, I saw Steve's wife, wow, she is looking good, you know? Like, you would, because how would that make you feel? It would make you feel small, it would make you feel awful. Like, why wouldn't you just lead with gratitude? And by the way, it's like any relationship. Like, if there's work that needs to be done, there's a way to do it. Like, you could make a praise sandwich, you know, I'm so grateful for the da-da-da-da-da. You know, it would be cool if we could do X, Y, and Z, but, you know, I'm so happy that we have, like, just pack it, but no.
That right there is probably some of the best advice ever.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like, I don't know that everybody feels like it's like advertising. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that everyone feels they're exempt from. Like, if you ask people, are you affected by advertising? They're like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I drink Coke because I like Coca-Cola. It's got nothing to do with the billboards. Really? Really? Because they spend a lot of money on those billboards. It mustn't be for no reason. Like, I genuinely don't think we're impervious to this shit. Like, we're just primates. That's all. Like, your dog likes you because you give it bacon. Like, your partner likes you because you give them value of some kind. It's an economy. And that's okay. Like, again, whether you like it or not, this is how it is. So you can pretend it's not like that. It's just like death. You're gonna die. You can pretend you're not gonna die if you think that's gonna make your life better. To pretend you're not gonna die, to keep it out of your view, not think about it until the last possible minute. Maybe that's the way to live your life. I don't fucking know. But personally, I think for me, I'm not doing that. I want to keep it in my line of sight. Same thing with relationships. I want to keep it in line of sight. Here's what I bring to the table. Here's what I'm willing to, here's my offer. Okay? If you accept it, what's your offer? Tell me what it is you're going to bring to this. I'll tell you what it is I'm going to bring to this, and I'll be consistent. You can set your fucking watch by me. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Like, I'm a man of will. I'm a person of focus. I'm disciplined. Like, if I say to you, I'm going to do this, it's going to get done. You don't have to even check up on it. It's going to get done. So why wouldn't you do that in your relationship? But I understand why, because the culture is always trying to pull you off of it. Everybody around you.
But also talking about these things is almost like the kiss of death. Like, all right, so the fact that we're even talking about this means we're falling apart.
I'd never thought that. And I always thought, and this is one of the things women, I think, do better than men, is like they talk so much about their relationships to each other. And I just feel like, why can't we just do that with our partner? Like, why can't we just say to our partner, like what is it we're both feeling right now, and how is it going? And like, I'm not saying, listen, nobody wants your relationship to turn into like a therapy session all the time, and that you have to overly think it. Like, sometimes overthinking something takes the magic of it away, you know? But I think there's genuinely room for, you know, just, I don't know, remembering like how we felt someone's love and when we felt someone's love. And why wouldn't you want to hear that? Like, I'm very, maybe I'm predictable and maybe I'm very male, but like, I would never not want to hear my romantic partner tell me, like, you know when I loved you so much? You know what you did that made me just feel so good about it? I'm like, oh, I want to hear this. Like, I want to hear this, you know? Like anything, even in bed. Like, oh, you know that what you do that I love? Oh my God, let me get, so I want to take notes. Yes, tell me, what, please, you know? And by the way, if you said to me, like, you know, what would you like? Like, I'm going to tell you. Like, I never understood, like, I understand why women fake orgasm. But I always felt like, oh, don't, why would you? Like, I want to know, I want to earn it. I want to know I got it right. Like, I don't want to think I got it right and I got it wrong, because I'm going to keep doing the thing I thought was the thing that did it right. So you're fucking yourself up right now, because I'm going to think that hit the button and it didn't, you know? So why not just be, again, that's not it, but something like, you know, like, oh, you know what you did that was so great, da, da, da. And I've always thought, like, that's not that fucking hard. Like, there's so many, I guess it's because I argue for a living. But I just feel like there's so many entry points to a conversation. I got pilloried online for daring to suggest that there was a safe way to talk to your romantic partner about something you want to try sexually. Like, because no one likes talking about sex, right? Like, because it feels too clinical. Or it's like if you have to ask for, you know, Orion said in our joint interview, like the blowjob you have to ask for isn't a blowjob, it's fellatio. Mm-hmm. Like, so what you want is, it's not that you want a blowjob, you want your partner to want to give you a blowjob. Like, that's that's part of the appeal of the blowjob.
Exactly.
Okay, but sometimes it is okay to like reality check with your partner about like where your passions intersect or where your sex intersects. So I've always said to people, like, and I got killed for this online, where I said, you know, rather than saying to your partner, hey, I'd really like to try anal, or like, hey, I'd really like to try, you know, a threesome, or you know, I really like toes. You know, like, I don't know. Those are three things that were not appealing to me. But I thought, you know, like, give an example. Those three things, like, there's a way to do that that's ham-handed like that. And then there's a way to do it that's like really, really palatable and likely to find some success. Like, oh my God, I had such a dream about you last night. It was like so dirty. Wait, what? Really? What was it about? You know, no, I don't even want to say it. I don't know maybe it's like I ate dairy before bed or something. It fucked me up though. Well, no, what was it? We were like, you know, and then we ended up like doing like anal and da-da-da. Really? Yeah. And if your partner goes, oh, I would never want to do that, you can be like, yeah, no, I know, me neither. That's just so crazy. Or if they go, oh, really, is that something you'd like? You'd be like, I don't know. Like, maybe I didn't think I did, but maybe like subconsciously I do. And now we're having a conversation. And now this is a very safe conversation. And then it's fun, right? Because then your partner's like, well, you know, maybe we give that a shot or whatever. So how fucking hard is that?
You just turn something that could be really awkward into art.
Into something really comfortable. And so, but my point is that, yes, I'm being manipulative. Yes. Like, that's the nature of human interaction, is we're going to be manipulative of each other. Like, you can call it out, or you can just do it and pretend you're not doing it, but you're manipulating your partner. Like, you are. You're manipulating everybody. Like, I always say, like, my job is I manipulate people's emotional state for a living. That's what I do. I make the judge feel good about my client, bad about the other side. I make the other side feel scared. I make my client feel safe. I'm manipulating everyone in that room's emotional state. That's my job. So I'm trying to use my powers for good. And in a relationship, by the way, you're using your powers for good. Why are you doing that manipulation? That little, oh, I had a dream last night lie. Why? Because I want to deepen my sexual connection with my partner, so I'm happily monogamous with that person. Who's not going to be into that? If you said to your spouse the day before, babe, I'd really like us to have really successful monogamy where we both feel really excited about the sexual relationship. She'd be like, absolutely, that's a great unified goal. Okay, so just serve the goal. Don't even have to like talk about in advance that that's the agenda. I assume that's the agenda. So what's wrong? What's wrong with doing that? Like, well, it's dishonest. Fuck you. I think it's way more honest to call out the manipulation and to say, yeah, of course, I'm manipulating my partner for the greater good of our relationship. And by the way, they're manipulating me all day long. Like, that's the nature of human relationship, is we're manipulating each other in some way. And that's okay, as long as the goal we're serving is a unified goal. It's a goal that we both had the same intention of serving.
Yeah, I mean, back to the dog thing that we talked about earlier, the way a dog comes running to you and jumping and just is excited to see you every single time you come home from work.
And that's a huge piece of the appeal.
It's a huge part of the.
Yeah, it's a huge part of the appeal. There's
that's why
something about, but even with your kids, it's the same thing. Like when they're little, it's like they light up. I remember the first time he was 6 months old, my older son, when he was in the crib and I walked in and he just got this grin. And I thought, oh my God, he knows I'm his dad. Like, and he's psyched to see me. Like, I'm that guy. I'm that guy who bounces him around, does the on his belly thing. You know, like, and I thought, fuck, man, this is great. You know, and by the way, like, that's what we want a romantic partner to feel. Like, I don't know, didn't you ever meet your romantic partner at the airport? You know, and you're just standing there and everybody's getting off the thing.
You never
just
forget.
looking and you're looking. And then all of a sudden you see them and you're like, that one's mine. You know, and they see you and there's this moment of like, that one's mine. Like, and like, God, that's so fucking great. Like, it's so great.
Magical.
And what it's about is like excitement. It's about excitement, about seeing, I understand, like in the day-to-day of life, like how do you sustain excitement with another person? But it never happens with your dog. Like you never find yourself going like, oh, this fucking dog, I've had this dog forever. I got to get a puppy, they're cuter. Like you don't feel that way. You get deeper and deeper in love with it. Because it's still just as happy to see you. You know, and even though it can't like jump up like it used to, you know, because it's older, it's like, who cares? Like it loves me that much, you know? And I think because dogs, we know that we're losing them from minute one. Like their lifespan is so short compared to ours, that impermanence stays right in our line of sight.
But the gratitude that they show constantly is a huge part of it too.
Yeah, and it stays the same.
It never fades.
Yeah, it never fades.
Whereas with humans, like the gratitude you showed in the first 6 months of the relationship is very different than what you showed 6 years.
But I guess I have to ask the question of why, because I've never suffered from that. Like I'm weird, you know. Yeah. I've had the same smoothie for breakfast for like 6 years, and even when I'm like away and traveling, I find some way to approximate that smoothie.
Yeah, I'm like you.
Yeah,
I am a creature of habit.
But I still love it. Like every day, I'm so like, this is good.
No, but I in my relationships, I realized the gratitude. Like people would say,
it never goes away.
Like with my wife, I was married for 17 years, and people would, after 12 years of marriage, people say like, "You guys are newlyweds, right?"
Yeah.
Like no.
Yeah, I've always in relationship tried to maintain that level of gratitude, and tried to always remember how much this person is giving to me, and that they didn't have to give it to me; they could have given it to someone else, and that I'm lucky to have it. But I've rarely seen someone who could sustain that. I think it's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, and I don't know why. It's the thing that more than anything baffles me about humans. Like I see it in my employees even. Like why are you not like seeing how great this is? Like why do I have to fire you to figure out that you have a great job that you just lost? Like why can't you have, like I still have every day tremendous gratitude for the ability to do this job. Like there was a time 27 years ago where I was in law school and I was like, oh my God, I want to be a divorce lawyer so bad. And I still every day get up and go, I am so fucking lucky I get to do this job. Like I'm so lucky. And I'm smart enough to know, like put things in your line of sight. Like I have interns every summer. And there's something about having interns around that is really, really good for you professionally. Because when you have interns around, they want to be you someday. And it reminds you how fucking lucky you are to be you. That you are what someone aspires to be. Like, and when you look at that and you have that around you, you walk a little taller. You're like, oh yeah, like I'm something. Like I'm a fucking lawyer. Like I'm a successful divorce. Like this person is gonna walk through coals for the next 8 years to try to be me. Like, and that's so cool. Like, and by the way, I want to help facilitate that because I had mentors who helped facilitate me becoming what I am. But I got to tell you, like, why can't you in relationship the same thing? Like, just have that gratitude, have that sense of like, man, like there was a time where you looked at this person and thought, oh my God, if I could just have that person next to me. Like if I could just catch their eye, or if I could just, if they call me back, like I hope they call me back, or I hope they text me back, or I hope we see each other again, you know? And like there was a time where you wanted that so bad and you got it. They're there now, you know? And I don't know, I was never wired. Like I'm still so grateful. Every single day. I don't take any of it for granted. And maybe it's because I do try to keep impermanence in my line of sight all the time. To realize that love is not permanently gifted, it's loaned. It's always loaned. Like you will, and I've always said that like, that's what makes love so brave, is that you will lose every person you love. To love anything is insane because you have opened yourself to the pain of losing it, inevitably. Like to love anything, a dog, a romantic partner, a child, like you will lose it. Like children, you lose them every day. Like children just grow and change every day, and then one day they kind of walk out the door and they live their lives, and that's what they're supposed to do. But like, you're not, like you're not, I'm not daddy anymore. I'm dad now, like, and there was a time that they called me daddy for the last time, and I wasn't aware of it when it happened, and if I'd known, I would have started crying, because I would have been like, wait, that's it? Like, I'm dad now forever? Like, shit, I was daddy for a long time, like. But you get to a point where you change into the thing you're supposed to be, and things transform and they move towards this inevitable ending. But I think romantic love, like if you could just keep focused on the fact, like hang out in my office for a couple of weeks, man, and I think it won't jade you towards love. It'll make you realize how fucking lucky you are to have it.
Yeah, that's what I see from what you're experiencing. You're seeing the end of things.
Yeah.
Whether it's working as a hospice volunteer or what you're doing now.
It's all about endings.
It's all about endings.
Yeah, and everything.
But that also makes you appreciate what you have.
Well, because Seneca said that every new beginning comes from some other's beginning's end. Like every beginning has to end so that the next beginning can begin. And I think love, like we're alone, we're alone. Like ideally we're born into love, right? We're born into parents or a parent who loves us and shapes us. We're born as these half-formed things, and hopefully someone greets us on the other end who's, kind enough to fill us in, and take care of us and treat us with love and compassion. And then we're really just looking to find love and connection, for the rest of our life. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that like sex, this thing that we're constantly chasing, is literally connection. You're literally inserting yourself inside someone. You're just connecting. Like, I mean, if that's not the best metaphor, because it's what it is. Like, we're trying to connect. We're trying to merge with this person physically, mentally, emotionally. Like that's a very noble goal, and it's not that fucking hard. I don't think it's that fucking hard.
We make it difficult. I
think we make it much harder than it needs to be, because we are an ungrateful species, and I genuinely blame our media-saturated society. I blame advertising. I think advertising is the opposite of therapy.
Yep.
The purpose of therapy, if the purpose of therapy is to create a sense of wholeness and wellness in someone, then advertising is the opposite. Advertising is designed to make you feel malcontent.
Like you don't have anything.
You're not okay. You're not okay. The one message you'll never hear in any advertisement is you're fine. You're fine, everything's fine. You don't need to do anything, just be who you are. You'll never hear that, because it has to be, there's something wrong, but if you got this car or this watch or this towel or this whatever, then you'll be happy, and then it just becomes a horizon that forever recedes and just keeps receding. And then people wonder why they're so miserable and why they make their partner miserable in their misery. But the truth is, like, it's not that fucking hard. Like, it's not that hard. You're so lucky. We're all so lucky, man. We're a day above ground. It's a good day. That was the thing about hospice is working as a hospice volunteer. Like, I would walk out of a nursing home or someone's house where someone was imminently dying, and I was like a Zen monk, like a samurai. Like, I could hear the rain fall, and I would just stand there and be like, I'm not dying. Like, I'm not in that situation. I don't have progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy. I can talk. I'm not dying. Like, I'm dying, but I'm not imminently dying. Like, and what a set of problems not to fucking have, And like, we're real lucky in that regard, And if you have a partner who like loves you and is grateful for you and is kind to you, I don't know anybody that's like, yeah, she's grateful and kind and really nice to me and really wants, but she's not as hot as she used to be. I don't know anybody that says that. I don't think there's anybody. I think that's a fictional character. Like, I don't think that exists out there. You know, it's a boogeyman that's been created to like convince people that, you know, well, you have to engage this economy in a particular way. I don't think it's real. Like, I think that when people treat each other, I think a lot of times there's an unkindness, there's a malcontent that comes with, like, I've met a lot of women that age and they get mad at the world for the fact that they're aging and they're becoming invisible. You know, they had beauty and now that beauty's gone.
There's nothing more beautiful and attractive than a woman who has gotten into her 50s and 60s and even 70s and 80s who still has a beauty about her.
Well, there is something more attractive than that. It's a 19-year-old girl. It's true. But what you're saying, I think, is that there is something uniquely beautiful about a woman who's aging with grace.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
But that's like, see, I'm very honest about that though, because I'm 51 and I'm doing better than some. But like, there's an 18-year-old swimmer right now who's got me beat. Like, if looks is the thing, he's got me beat. Money's the thing. There's a 5'4" dude working in Wall Street, a couple blocks down from here, got me beat. Like, so you gotta bring something else to the table. Now, I think I have value, you know? But I'm not gonna have it be that it's like, well, I'm gonna stay as hot as an 18-year-old swimmer. I'm not, guarantee it, you know? Or I'm gonna be the wealthiest person. I'm not, guarantee it. Like in my line of work, it's not possible to make the money that some of these people make. So what you have to attribute different value, you know, because I'm beat by the 18-year-old swimmer, just like the 19-year-old girl who wakes up super hot. But what is that 19-year-old? She's 19. When's the last time you talked to a 19-year-old? Trust me, I couldn't possibly date a 19-year-old under any circumstances. We'd have nothing to say to each other. You know, and there's only so much sex you can have before you eventually have to talk to somebody, and then you'd be like, wow, this is really something, you know? So I think there's tremendous value in every chapter of life, every stage of life. And we all know too, by the way, you know, a friend of mine said to me many years ago, we were talking about the difference between beautiful and hot. And he was like, and I was like, what are you're using those like synonyms? And he said, no, they're not synonyms. He's like, haven't you ever met a woman who was beautiful, but she wasn't hot? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, and haven't you ever met a woman who was hot, but she wasn't beautiful? And I was like, yeah, I get it. And he said, yeah, that's a confidence thing. Like, that's a confidence, that's how you carry yourself, and that's a tremendous thing. I mean, I think that has tremendous value. I think a lot of value in men and women is a function of confidence. I think a lot of what people see in me as a professional is my level of confidence, you know, and again, that's something that we can generate internally. It isn't something that you can buy.
How many years have you been an attorney?
25.
25.
Yeah.
You've seen some crazy shit.
I've seen a lot of crazy shit.
What's the craziest? Let's cover some of the topics. Like, what's the craziest prenup you've seen?
Craziest prenup I've seen has already gotten some traction, and that was that it was the woman lost $10,000 a month in alimony for every 10 pounds she gained during the marriage, which to me was a hilarious prenup, not because of the boorishness of the provision, but the fact that as a lawyer, all I could think about was how to game it. Because I was like, okay, so there has to be a baseline weight on the date of marriage. So that day she should have like pennies in her pockets and heavy shoes. And then on the day that there's a divorce, there'd have to be a weigh-in to see how much weight she gained. And she could be like a wrestler the week before, like wearing the sweatsuit and stuff like that. And it just showed me something about humans. But no, listen, prenups, people put infidelity clauses all the time, even against my recommendation. And then you have to define like, well, what is sexual? Because if you say, well, you will lose a certain amount of money if you engage in sexual behavior with another person, well, what is sexual behavior? Is it oral genital contact, genital to genital contact? Is it digital to genital contact? Is it sexting? If it's sexting, what crosses the line between flirtation and sexual? Like, so you know, lawyers, what's funny about lawyers is how we have to fucking quantify things all the time. Like, so people will say like, you know, well, I want a clause that says that he's not allowed to introduce the kids to a girlfriend until they're in a long-term relationship. Okay, how do you define long-term relationship? Like, you have to define it in some way. And most of the time when you try to define it, you're defining it with more vague subjective concepts. Well, a serious relationship. Okay, you just said the same fucking thing, you know? Well, like a relationship likely to lead to cohabitation or marriage. Right, said the same fucking thing. Like, we gotta pin this down. Well, that they've been together for at least 6 months. All right, so 6 months. So if they're together 4 months and get married, the kids can't meet the person. But if they're together for 6 months and have no intention of getting married, then it's a serious relationship and they can meet the kids. Like, we think in generalities, but as lawyers, we have to do things in detail. So to me, like, that's the stuff in prenups that's hilarious, is people try to mitigate by contract things that you really can't, and so lawyers have to be put in the position of explaining to someone. See, like, the thing that makes my job so fascinating is we are trying to apply contract rules and very, like, finite legal principles to people breaking up. Like, there is nothing more human and visceral and emotional than a breakup. And now we're applying the rules of evidence and, like, the structure of a courtroom to that transaction. That's insane. Like, that's like saying there's a massive conflict, let's throw guns in. Like, it's like, wait, no, don't throw guns in, throw, like, pillows in. Maybe they'll hit each other with the pillows. But by the way, they'll hit each other for real with the pillows. So, like, you gotta say, like, well, I don't know what you want to throw at them, but don't make it anything that could be a weapon. But the legal system, like, I have to tell people all the time, like, they'll come in and say, like, well, my ex is, really, like, denigrating the children, like, denigrating me to the children. And I'll say, oh, like, what's going on? They'll be like, oh, well, he's just, like, letting them, like, use their phones whenever they want to. And I'm like, okay, there's not really a judicial solution to that problem. Like, your ex is an asshole. Like, your ex is an asshole. Like, a judge can't order him to stop being an asshole. It doesn't work that way. There's no order like you are ordered to stop being an asshole. Like, so it turns into, like, very specific kinds of behaviors that, you sometimes have to say to clients, like, look, I can't, and by the way, you married this person. Like, you married this awful fucking person. You married them, because why? Because you wanted to wear the white dress and do the whole thing for Instagram? Like, what was it? Like, you thought they were a fixer-upper? You thought they wouldn't be? Like, they were this way. Like, rarely does a person say, oh my God, they were the nicest, best person. And then in the marriage, they just turn into this villain. It's usually, oh, well, ever since the day we got married, they were controlling and nasty. And ever since we got married, they were this way. Okay, so why did you marry them? By the way, and when you say, well, from the day one of the marriage, they were this way, great, why'd you have 3 kids with them then? There was at least 9 months between each of those kids that you could have rethought whether you want to double down and have another kid with this person. And yet, you had 3 kids with this person. And then you come in and say to me, fix it. Fix it. Get a person in a black robe to order this person to be different than the way they've been for the entire time you've known them. I'm not going to be able to solve that fucking problem. It's not going to happen. There's not a judge who's going to. I'm not Batman. I'm a lawyer. Like, I can ask judges for orders. I can ask judges to enforce orders. That's it. That's my superpower, guys. Like, I don't have the ability to fix your terrible choices. Like, you had kids with an asshole. I'm sorry you had kids with an asshole. You're stuck with that asshole now. You're going to be a grandparent with that asshole now. You better learn to live with it. You got to figure out a way. And again, we can mitigate some of the damage. I can get some financial awards put in place. I can get a schedule put into place. There's lots I can do. I bring tremendous value to this transaction. But I can't fix it. That's an unsolvable problem. Like, you had 3 kids with an asshole. And every once in a while, because I'm human, I'll have a long week and I'll get really tired and I'll just not be able to filter. And I'll say that to a client because, like, a client will be like, well, I don't understand why we can't fix this. And I'm like, who the fuck can fix this? Like, I can't fix this. This thing was so broken when you got to my office. I can't fix it. I can mitigate some of the damage. I can improve things. But my God, you want me to fix that problem? There's no way. Maybe a hitman could fix that problem. But then you have whole second order effects of other problems.
What's the craziest behavior you've seen between couples as they're separating? I mean, like,
I've people lose their minds when they're separating sometimes. So I've seen, I've seen everything from the ridiculousness of people clearing out bank accounts and, taking and hiding things. I mean, cash is always a very funny thing. Like, people sometimes have hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash in their house, and then all of a sudden it's just fucking gone. And what are you going to do? Like, they can't go to the police and be like, hey, I have all this cash that I illegally put aside and didn't pay taxes on, and I need to make a police report that it's missing now. Like, you're not going to do that.
And you get to see the real
Oh yeah.
nitty gritty of what people's lives are really like, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
people can create a facade of how.
Oh no! But listen, I have to say something. I know how full of shit everybody is. Like I mean, listen, I see it. You know, I see all the hashtag blessed on Instagram, and then I know they were in my office. You know, like I see it with I've had celebrity clients who, you know, when they were publicly talking about our marriage is very strong and any rumors about our marriage, I mean, well, they're in our office, like they're already killing each other. Like there's so much dishonesty about relationships. Like people, it's just like the wealthy people that they're wealthy until they're bankrupt. You know, like they walk around, they're flying private, and then they're turns out they're $20 million in debt, you know, because they just did a great job. It's just like credit, you know, it's like consumer credit. Like that's all. Like it just borrowed excitement about their relationship. It's not real. Like people's perception. And again, that's a social media thing because you're living your gag reel while everybody else shows you their greatest hits. Like, and that's why it's the most toxic fucking thing in the world. Like, don't look at that. Like, look at the opposite of that. Honestly, that's what hospice is. That's what your channel is. Look at the opposite of that. Yeah. Look at how fucking bad it could be. Look at how bad it could be. Look at the problems you could have today.
Have you seen like murders, things like that?
Oh yeah, well, not murder. Thank God, not murders. I've seen attempted murders. I had one client who went to jail because he hired a hitman to try to kill his wife, and he got caught. There was a Dateline about it, and you see me in the back of the shot. And I had a client whose husband stabbed her 17 times and ran her over 3 times with a car, and he didn't kill her. She was in intensive care for a really long time.
How did he do that?
How did he?
Like, have he just like set her up and?
Yeah, he told her he had to meet her at a parking lot. It was the Sheraton Crossroads in Mahwah, New Jersey. And he said he had to drop something off related to the kids or whatever. And she came by herself and he stabbed her a bunch of times. And then he ran her over twice with the car.
Oh, wow.
She lived. She has some scars, but she lived. And he's in prison for the rest of his life. But I mean, it just shows what a fuck up the guy was. You couldn't even get that right. Like, you stabbed somebody how many times and run them over twice and they're still alive. Like, that's crazy.
What is it that makes us choose these partners that are clearly not
You know, in that situation, I think that he obviously had a screw loose, but I think
she must have too, though.
you know, she's my client, so I don't really see her, you know, as plainly. I don't see her as honestly, maybe, but no, she wasn't crazy. I think I think people have a tendency to sometimes overlook, particularly women. There's a lot they'll forgive, you know? Like, there's a lot. Like, I'm always shocked by female clients will come in and they'll be like, oh yeah, and he was cheating on me with this person. I'm like, oh, and you didn't leave? And they're like, no, you know. I was like, all right, you know. I think to myself, I'm like, wow, I can get away with a lot more shit than I give myself credit to. Because women are very forgiving.
Women think they'll change men.
Maybe.
What's that saying? Women go through a relationship hoping they can change men, and men go into a relationship hoping
it'll never change. That sounds like something Orion would say. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I certainly think that I see a lot of female clients who are willing to overlook the foolishness and stupidity of their partner in some way. The problem is they roll their eyes at it, and the rolling of the eyes, like, you might as well divorce the guy. Like, it would be more dignified, because I think you're going to lose him no matter what. You're just going to lose him in a worse way, because there's nothing worse than being lonely when you're with somebody. You know, if you're lonely and alone, that's fine. But lonely and you're sitting next to somebody, that's fucking bad. I had a friend who once said to me that he knew when a relationship was over when, in the middle of sex, he thought, one of these days I've got to get laid.
Oof.
And I understood what he meant, which is that I think there are times where we are in a relationship and feeling lonely. And that's a real red flag, you know, because that means we're not really present, or our partner's not present. And the tougher question to ask is, why do we feel that way at that moment? Like, what's going on? Is it me? Is it her? Is it us? Is it the dynamic? Like, how do we get back to where we saw each other still and we felt seen and we didn't feel lonely? You know, because it's really the opposite, right? Like that initial rush we were talking about before, that's like the opposite of lonely, you know? And that's why I've said, like, New York City has its own unique brand of loneliness, because there's something about when you feel alone and you're surrounded by people in this incredibly dense population, and yet you feel completely alone because no one interacts with each other, no one talks to each other, there's nothing friendly going on, you know? And so I think that's a piece of it. I think that there's I've seen people forgive insane things. I've also seen, one of the things that still fascinates me, and this is a very female thing, how women will, in competition with other women, fight for the love of a guy who's a complete piece of shit. She's married to this guy. He is no fucking prize. Like, not good looking, not a lot of money, whatever it might be. Just utterly fucking useless. Like a guy you look at and go like, yeah, just fucking good riddance to bad rubbish. Go live your life. There's a lot of other people. Go find another one. And he's cheating. And instead of he's cheating, so I'm out, it becomes, all right, well, I'm gonna win this battle. And then the girlfriend is like, no, I'm gonna win this battle. And they're both fighting over this fucking dumpster fire of a man. And you're looking at it going like, this has nothing to do with this guy. This has to do with you wanna win. Like, you wanna win over her. You wanna win the beauty pageant or whatever pageant it is in your mind, which to me, these two women should both be like, fuck this guy, and both split. Like, but there's something about like that woman versus woman competition for a mate that is like, whereas men, I just don't see that as often. Like, if a man's woman is cheating on him, he's not gonna be like, well, I'm gonna win her love back. He's like, fuck her, and that's that. He's out. He's out. And I've said it before that's why
we're so different.
When a woman finds out a man's cheating or a man finds out a woman's cheating, the man says, did you fuck him? And the woman says, do you love her? Because the value is different. Like in our minds, that value is different. And I think there's something fascinating about that. But it also shows why, like Shakespeare's saying of hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Like, I have never seen the level of vitriol that I've seen in some of my female clients or the spouses of some of my male clients. Like, I have seen people who do not let go of that brutal hatred that they have for their partner. Like, that they just, it becomes a defining characteristic of who they are.
What a toxic way to go through life.
Very toxic way to go through life. You know, my first interview with you, I talked about the hand job guy. I talked about the case of the hand job guy.
Yes.
And that case was still going on at the time.
Oh, it was?
And she saw it. She was pissed. She was pissed. Her lawyer said to me, like, yeah, she saw you talking about it. And I was like, how do you know I was talking about this case? I could have lots of hand job cases. There could be tons of them,
sure.
You know? Like, in fact, there are, you know? Like, people are not as unique as they think they are, you know? But I remember thinking, like, you know, it's how many years later, and there's still no insight on her part. She hasn't calmed down at all. She's as angry and bitter as she ever was. Like, and all I could think is, didn't you want more for your life than this? Like, you're letting this person define your existence. Like, you're letting your hatred for this person, who, by the way, you loved, married, had children with, can still have children with, and have to co-parent with. Like, your defining characteristic is the depth of your hatred for this person, which is in no way dissipating, and in fact is only, it seems to be solidifying as years pass on. Like, that's who you are? Like, what a horrible thing to be. Like, I can almost think of nothing worse than that. Like, what is your defining characteristic? My hatred for another person. Like, that's my defining characteristic. Like what an unbelievable, like, why would any man ever want to be with that woman? Like, why would any woman want to be around that woman unless they were equally bitter and miserable as that person? Like, why would children want to grow up in a home with someone who's that angry at someone those children love? Like, couldn't you just have the dignity and grace to go, yeah, he's a fucking idiot. He's an idiot. Like, this guy was so immature that he couldn't express his needs and he had to, like, go and, you know, do dumb stuff at a massage parlor. Like, he couldn't just express it, or he didn't have the courage to say, hey, you know, I'm unhappy. I think we should end this thing. You know, like, instead and again, you know, if you talk to the guy, like, he had a good excuse. He was like, hey, listen, I didn't want to end the marriage. Like, I just thought, all right, we don't have a sexual component anymore to our relationship. And now we'll just be like, you know, people running a daycare center together, and I'll get my sexual needs met in a way that's not going to threaten the health of this marriage.
It's so awkward to have these conversations, though. I mean, like,
yeah, but it's a lot. You know what's more awkward than it? 3 years of litigation.
Right. I mean, so.
And millions of dollars in counsel fees.
Like, how do you present the idea of a prenup to somebody you're about to get married with?
I think what you say is there's a prenup no matter what. It's just written by the legislature, it's written by us. Mm-hmm. I think you see it as an invitation to talk about the value we give and the value we receive. I think there's something very romantic about that. I don't think that has to be sterile. I mean, I was joking earlier about like the contractual nature of it.
Yeah.
But like, what is more loving than saying to your partner, like, when do you feel the most loved by me? I want to know. Like, I want to know because I want to make you feel that way as often as I can for as long as I can. Like, and don't you want to know, like, when I feel your love? Like, because if you do, ask, I'll tell you. Like, I'll tell you. And what a fun conversation to have. Like, what a fun thing to do. Like, to sit there and to say to each other, like, oh, you know when you did that thing. Like, because I'd say something, you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. Like, because we're from different species, men and women sometimes. Like I'm always astounded when I hear women talking about a man. And they're like, I remember once listening to two women talking about a man, and they were like, oh yeah, and he like does that thing, like he wears like a cross or something, and you just see it like sort of sticking out of his t-shirt just a little. Oh, I love that. I'm like, wait, what? You love what? What is that you love? Like, that's fucking, whereas men, like, we'll say like, oh, you know how sometimes when they have their hair up and then that one little hair kind of, oh, that one little hair, we love that one. I don't know that women know that. Like, maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe that's why there's so many of them have that little hair. I don't know. But I don't care. It doesn't make me like it less. Like, you know, that one little hair. So, like, what if we could just, in the prenup conversation, like, clearly I want this to work. I'm marrying you. Like, clearly I want this to work. Like, we're getting married. Clearly I'm invested in this thing. But I'm human. So can't we just have a conversation about what is it you like so much about me? And what is it I like so much about you? And what will be our language? If I'm failing you, I want you to tell me. Like, Mark, if you thought this interview's not going well, I want you to stop me. Don't let me go for 3 hours and then go, that was all right. Like, stop and go, you know, Jim, you're a little this, you're a little that. Like, fucking tell me. Like, I can't give you what you want. I don't hear what you don't say. I can't give you what you want if I don't know what the fuck you want. You know, and a lot of times, I don't know, like nobody quite knows. So why not say, hey, we're getting married, we're doing this thing. I want it to stay as good as it is now, or even if possible, get better. I can't imagine how it could, but what if it gets even better? And how do we do that? Well, we do that by you tell me what you like about me. Tell me 10 memories of me that make you feel the most close to me. Tell me 3 things I do that make you happy. Tell me 3 things I do that make you want to fuck me. I'll do the same. Like, and then what's the downside of that? What's the downside of that? What's the cost? It doesn't even cost anything. Of course no one's trying to sell that to you online. It doesn't fucking cost anything. You can't monetize that advice. Like, there's no secret to that. You know, like when people are like, oh, marriage is hard work. Well, if you consider paying attention hard work, yeah, I guess it's hard work. Like, that's insane. I remember a friend of mine getting married and saying to me, oh, well, we just moved in together, and it's like, you know, it's kind of hard. You know, like, it's hard when you first move in together. And I was like, no, it's not. It's like fucking and putting IKEA furniture together. It's amazing. Like, are you mean moving together is hard? No, it's not. That's ridiculous. Like, so I don't think that's, like, I think that the prenup conversation can be really, really, it actually should be the easiest conversation in the world. Because what are you saying? Like, yeah, you want to frame it as like, I'm concerned this marriage isn't going to work. Like, that's not what it is. It's, listen, marriages generally don't work. More often than not, they fail. So how are we going to not let that happen? Because I don't want it to happen. You don't want it to happen? I don't want it to happen. Great. And in 10 years, you hope we're still like fucking and we love each other and we're excited about each other, right? Okay, cool. I feel the same way about that. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? And if the other person goes, well, I don't know, I don't want to talk about that, I would be like, all right, well then how committed to it are you? Like, what? Why can't you just say, like, yeah, I don't know either. But you know what? We're the 2 people got to figure it out. We're the only 2 people got to figure it out. So again, most people only talk about their relationship when they go to marriage counseling, when the marriage is already, the wheels are coming off. Like, I would actually say, there's a school of thought that would say, from the beginning of marriage, go to marriage counseling. Or before marriage, go to marriage counseling. Start talking about this shit. Like, my son just got engaged. My older son just got engaged. 27 years old, got engaged. I'm all for it. I'm cheering for him. But fucking talk about it, man. Like, talk about it. Talk about what you're doing with each other. Talk about what you love about each other. Talk about when you feel good and when you feel bad. You know, when your partner hurts you, tell me.
Communication is the key to.
It's the whole thing. But again, man, there's no way to monetize it, so no one wants to talk about that. Yeah. You know, everybody wants to talk about the complicated stuff. Everyone wants to talk about like, oh, go to this seminar, or buy this thing, or take this, you know. It's not what it is. Like, it really just is. Like, just talk to your partner about, you know, what they want. And again, it doesn't have to be if you're not verbal. Because I understand not everybody's like as comfortable in the world of extemporaneous speaking as I am. That's fine. Like, it's job security for me. But write something to each other. I don't know, like something. Draw a fucking picture. I don't care. Use smoke signals. Like, if it's either worth something or it's not. You know? And I happen to believe it's worth something. It's your primary relationship. Like, that's huge. That's huge. And if you give a shit about, or just get divorced. Get divorced like civilized human beings. Let's just go, well, it didn't work. Like, why does it have to be like it was a failure? It was awful. It wasn't a failure. We had some kids. We had some time together. We had some laughs. Okay, didn't work out. Most marriages don't. Let's move on. See if we can roll the dice again. Maybe we will, you know, with somebody else and figure it out. Like, maybe we'll be better at it in some other permutation down the road. Maybe we couldn't unlearn the habits that we learned together and we couldn't undo it, but maybe the next one will be better at it. Like, why can't you just have that, like, yeah, we'll always have Paris. It was great kind of thing. Like, I don't have any hate in my heart for any ex I've ever had my whole adult life.
Yeah, that's a great great way to be.
Not one. Most of them I have some tenuous contact with, you know, like we'll text each other now and then or we'll email each other. And it's always with love. I'm cheering for them. I'm cheering for every fucking one of them. I really am, because they all help make me the man I am. They all deserve happiness. You know, maybe I wasn't the right one for them, but you know what? Like, somebody is, I hope. And so many of them, you know, of my ex-wife is very happily remarried to a great guy who's like great for her. He's fucking nothing like me. We're totally different personalities. Great guy though, perfect for her. You know, I have a lot of like ex-girlfriends who are remarried or who married now to really like great guys who suit them very well. Most of whom are absolutely nothing like me, which is a good sign because we didn't work out. So hopefully something different will work out, you know? But again, even my son, like, I don't look at his coming marriage as like, well, it's forever and it's magic. And it's like, dude, I don't believe in fairy tales. Like, dude, you know, stay in touch, connect, do your thing, try to stay connected. If you don't, okay, it's not a failure, you know? But like, try to maintain it. If you care about something, maintain it. You know, but if you care about it and you don't maintain it and it falls apart, don't fucking whine. Take it like a man. Like, don't sit there. Like, don't not fuck your husband for 7 years and then you get mad that he's paying someone to jerk him off. Like, that's fucking stupid. Like, you know, if you're sleeping with him regularly and he never told you there was any deficiency in the relationship and that he's off doing that, you have every right to be angry. No problem. Every right in the world. But don't you dare ignore your partner's needs. Don't you dare not tell your wife or girlfriend how beautiful she is and how wonderful she is. And then when some other dude tells her she's beautiful and that she's wonderful and she ends up flirting with or hooking up with that guy, don't you dare be indignant about it. I don't care you pay her fucking bills. I don't care that you bought her a Birkin bag. How hard is it to tell her she's pretty? Like, and if you stop doing that, that's on you, man. And I'm not saying the penalty for that, like the wages of sin is death, or the penalty for that is that someone has carte blanche to cheat on you. But how dare you be surprised? Or how dare you have that righteous indignation that I have all these divorcing people that are just like so indignant. I can't believe you did that. Really? You can't believe it? Really? Because I don't think that's true. I think why you're really mad is that you absolutely believe it. And you absolutely had the opportunity to probably move out of the fucking way of that thing, and you chose not to. Instead, you chose to, it's like somebody being like, I can't believe I got fat. Really? You ate Doritos all day long and never worked out, and you can't believe you got fat, huh? It's really shocking. Like, if you were like, oh, I've been training for a marathon, and all I do is eat lean proteins, and somehow I got fat. Okay, go see a doctor. Now there's a problem. But like, most of the time, of course you're getting fat. Like, of course your relationship's falling apart. You're not doing anything with it. You're not paying attention to it. You're not doing preventative maintenance on it. And that's the thing. If people did preventative maintenance on their relationships before and during the marriage, I would be out of business, period.
Jim, you're amazing. I'll say it again. You're a national treasure.
I'm so glad you think, you know, it's very funny to me because the first time you reached out to me, I remember thinking, I don't really have anything to say that would be interesting to anybody. And the fact that, like, I can't walk down the street now without people being like, hey, you're that divorce lawyer. And then tens of millions of people have seen this stuff. is still shocking to me because I still don't. I was actually on my way over to talk to you today, and I thought to myself, I don't really have anything to say. Like, I don't really know what it is I would say. Like, I don't really have anything to say.
2 hours, 15 minutes.
Has it really been 2? I have no idea. It feels like if you told me it was a half an hour, I'd be like, yeah, it's probably like.
You could go another 2 hours.
I probably could because I still don't know why this is interesting. Like, I really am baffled.
It's what we all struggle with most.
What's funny to me is, so I've had a number. I always respect people's privacy, but I've had a number of very successful and well-known people reach out to me and say, "Oh, I saw your stuff on Underbelly interview." You have a lot of celebrities that like your stuff, and some of them even like reposted clips of it on their TikTok or whatever. And I think to myself, "Oh my God, you're so good at like acting, or you're so good at business, or you're so good at this, and this is hard, like the relationship." And it really is. It's like a great equalizer. Like, we're all struggling with this. And isn't there something really beautiful and great about that? That like, no matter how much money you have, whatever gender, presentation you have, whatever, like, we're all just kind of struggling with this. And like, isn't that beautiful? Like, couldn't we just say like, oh shit, like I really want to be good at this, and I'm not. Like, and maybe if we said that to our partner, like maybe they would be like, yeah, I'm really nervous that I'm not good at it. Like, I don't get why you were interested in hearing what I have to say, but you are. Like, you're interested in hearing what I have to say. Okay, so then like, I'm just gonna trust that and lean into it and be like, okay, cool. Like, Mark sees something in me. Maybe I don't see it in myself, but he sees it in me. And like, there's something really beautiful about that. And that's what love can be. Like, love can be like, I don't know why this person loves me, but they do, and like, I know why I love them, I think, and okay, and tell them all the things you love about them.
Love is all we all need.
It's it. The older I get, I have to tell you, you and I are both, in the later end of middle age. And the older I get, the more that I'm like, yeah, I hate to sound like John Lennon, but like, love is all you need. It's all you want. It's the only thing we're here to try to cultivate. And it's the thing that feels the best. And it's the thing that feels the most rewarding. And it's defined differently by different people, I think, in terms of what they love. The love of a pet, the love of a romantic partner, the love of a child, the love of whatever. But yeah, it's just love, man. The two lessons that have been the hardest learned for me, and the ones that I didn't figure out until I crossed the line of 50, was that really love is all we're looking for, and that the hardest thing in the world to be is yourself. Like, it's so hard to be yourself. Like, the world is constantly trying to turn you into something different. And like, if you can figure out a way to just be yourself, that's really the hardest thing to be, but it's the best thing to be.
And that's what other people want from you the most.
Yeah, and it's the thing only you can do.
Yeah.
It's the like you're the only one that can be you. And there's something really beautiful about that. I think I didn't get to read the 30,000 comments on our first interview, but the couple of them that I read, the thing that had me always scratching my head was they were like, "This guy's so real. This guy's so real." And I thought to myself, I'm like, well, okay, yeah, that is true. Like, I'm real. Like, I'm being very unfiltered. But like, shouldn't we all just have more room to just be real? Like, to just be honest, like with each other, with our partner. Like, isn't that just the core of what I'm saying? Is like, just be real. Like, just be real with your partner. Be real with yourself. Like, just be honest. Because maybe you don't see it. Like, maybe you don't see what you have to say or the value that you bring to the situation. Maybe you think what you bring to the relationship is your looks, or maybe you think what you bring to the relationship is your money. But actually, maybe it's something totally different than that. It's something intangible. It could just be something magical. Like, there's something magical about love. There's something magical about our connection to each other. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's always good to see you, though.
Likewise. All right, Jim. Till next time.
Thanks.
Thank you, man.
I'm in the middle of the mountains, that river running wild. I'm as peaceful as a shadow and carefree as a child. The sunlight singing to me a soft and gentle song. singing soak it all in, darling, for you're right where you belong. Right where you belong. Right where you belong. Oh, you've been down in that valley, but came back before too long. Right where you belong. You've been to hell and back again. Nobody knows your story, at least not the full one, 'cause you've learned you can't trust just anyone. Life has dealt some heavy blows, some have made you strong, but you shouldn't have to work so hard to find where you belong. Find where you belong. Find where you belong. Oh, you've been down in that valley, you've been down far too long. Let's find where you belong. Maybe a state of mind. It may be the furthest thing from what you think you'll find. But listen to that voice inside, it won't guide you wrong. Trust in time, my friend, you'll wind up right where you belong. Right where you belong. Right where you belong. There will still be valleys, but you won't stay too long. For there's a place your heart can heal. There's a place where you can feel you're right where you